All right, and here we go. Welcome to You Had Me at Halo's 8th spoiler cast, where we will talk about Halo TV's penultimate episode of its first season, where we will cover topics that include, but are not limited to, frolicking Spartans, that time Master Chief wished he had a fusion coil, the time Spartan melees were desyncing, and which You Had Me at Halo team members had Master Chief having sex with the Covenant on their preseason bingo card. After that, we'll move on to episode number 50, where we'll discuss feedback that 343 read on Halo Reddit, so you wouldn't have to, and we'll talk about the changes that came as a result. And with the delay of Starfield, we need to discuss what this means for Halo. Is the spotlight going to burn brighter on 343 Season 3 and with Microsoft's first party void this holiday season? Before we delve into the topics, let's meet today's Spartan cast, a group that would never follow Halsey's orders without question. First off, presenting Spartan Jesse, aka Mr. Don Cabeza.
Hello, how y'all doing? Much like Master Chief has finally matched me in not being a virgin.
All right, great. Next up, we got Spartan Aarsal, a.k.a. Mr. Soulblazer.
Yo.
Spartan Daniel, a.k.a. Mr. Knottian.
Hey, guys. I'm really excited to talk about some chief boning, I guess.
It's literally the only thing that happened in the episode if you paid attention to online discourse.
Right, yeah. My expectations were set super low, and then I came away totally differently.
You know, and we definitely got to ask the question whether Spartans learn more than just the missionary position, right? Next up, presenting Spartan Austin, a.k.a. Mr. Pfhorbear. Oh, I'm
muted, buddy. Technical difficulties.
Yeah, you might have to check your StreamYard settings, see what the mic is set to. If it likes to change, don't ask me why. It just changes on its own.
I'll introduce Spartan Amanda, a.k.a. Mrs. Mandala.
Hi.
And
sorry,
finally,
I was on the YouTube page, so it was like delayed. It didn't process correctly in my brain.
It's all right. You know, sometimes things don't work, like the battle rifle, right? Finally,
it's Friday.
It's
TGIF.
Austin, did you get your mic to work?
Did I?
Yes, you did.
Finally.
Hello.
Damn it, it's such a good joke. Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship? Sir, giving the Covenant D's nuts. Like, fuck.
Oh my god, we're just not going to run out of these, are we? Finally, it's your host today, Spartan Abe, aka OneBadMutha, or as my Halo friends know me, Captain Desync. All right, so as we are now 8 episodes in, when I look back at the general consensus of the TV show, you know, there's been a divergence in terms of how we've all felt. I think a lot of that's been kind of similar throughout the communities and between Halo and non-Halo fans. You know, I've tended to be a lot more on the low end. Jesse, I think you've been able to really separate the existing lore in the show, and you've been probably the most positive about it. The rest of the panel, I think you all sit in the middle in varying degrees. So this week, I think I want to just start in the middle and and get some just general impressions, and we'll kind of bounce off of that. So Austin, let's go ahead and start with you this week. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought, controversially, that this was probably the best episode that the show's had so far. I legitimately enjoyed the big moments. I'm so torn on the one thing, right? Like on the freaking the like sex between Chief and Monkey. I think it was done incredibly well. Like I don't know that it could have been done any better for this show, especially. I just don't feel like it needed to happen. I feel like there were more interesting ways that a relationship could have been established between Chief and Maquis. I understand it was kind of like a, hey, let's get this done really quickly so we can kind of wrap this season up. And like, it was probably done really quickly too.
Master Chief does feel like he's back in high school, doesn't he?
A little bit. But yeah, I think that even the way that people reacted online to everything that happened in this episode, I thought that it was one of the most interesting episodes and super satisfying to see everything kind of come to a head in the penultimate episode here.
Pun intended, I'm sure.
No. So good. I liked it.
That's what Mackie said. All right, Mr. Soul, let's go over to you, man. What was your general thoughts?
So, I really like the episode actually, and I think this is the episode where I finished this episode and I'm like, I think this show is a solid sci-fi show, even disregarding its Halo links and Halo connections. Like, if anyone's just a fan of just regular sci-fi, even this show is still pretty good. In terms of the episode itself, to be honest, the love scene was not a big deal, really, and it definitely wasn't the most controversial part of the episode for me. There were a couple other things where I'm like, okay, all right. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think a character would do this, but let's see how it goes. Yeah, we'll talk all about it.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Knottian, how about you, man?
Yeah, I was actually pretty strong on the episode. I've got a lot of notes here, but I felt like the scene that everybody's focusing on Twitter wasn't anywhere near as big of a deal, and I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was too necessarily out of character because, and I'll get to kind of like the analogs later, but it definitely wasn't the like most controversial. I think there was a trope cliche event that happened near the end of the episode that I felt was a lot worse from a kind of a narrative standpoint. But no, I thought it was pretty good. I definitely agree with Austin. I think it was definitely one of the strongest episodes because you do see a lot of those narrative threads that were starting to be sown earlier in the season kind of actually tie up pretty well. Yeah, that was pretty good.
All right. Mandela, general impressions, and then we'll go to Jesse, and we'll start getting into some specifics here soon.
Yeah, I also felt it was probably at the top, if not the best episode. Like, we had like action, we had betrayal, we had subterfuge, we had miscommunications, we had halos, we had all kinds, we had everything. Really had everything. I mean, what didn't it have?
I'll answer that question, but in a minute. I feel like I don't know why I've ended up being the outlier here, but all right, I'm gonna go over to Mr. Jesse.
Honestly, when haven't you been? Do you really want to be here?
Well, let's go to Jesse. I am the asshole of the show. Sorry, I'm like Mr. Party Pooper. But
it's just a grumpy old man who. I
am. So, but we'll go to you, Jesse. But maybe we should finish on a higher note. Do you want me to go next? Here, I'll do that. I'll mix in. We'll sandwich my opinions. So. I'll be honest. There were some things I did like. There was times where this show, as just a sci-fi show, I was enjoying sort of the scenery, the tone. Interestingly enough, it wasn't so much feeling like Halo to me. It was feeling a little bit more Mass Effect, I guess, right down to sex with aliens. But I mean, but really everything from when they're. Yeah, I know. But like being on Reach and kind of when they're walking around there, I really got sort of more of a Mass Effect-y vibe from that, which was fine. Like if I'm separating this a little bit, my issue with the world. Yeah, and I think that was good stuff, and I think some of the stuff near the end was fun. I have issues, I think, with some of the character whiplash in this, really, even more than the sex scene, although I don't think that needed to be there either. But we'll come back to that in detail. Jesse, why don't we go over to you to kind of balance me out a little bit?
Stop being such puritanical no funsies. When you're just looking at it from like, where is this coming from? He's going through rapid puberty, essentially, getting all this stuff back he never felt before, trying to learn how to deal with it. And she hasn't been around a human since she was just about to hit puberty. And it's like they just shared this almost religious experience together, being perfectly in sync, in their trip to friggin' whatever that was, projected in their mind Halo. Like,
Mind
you know.
meld. Intense mind
Yep.
meld.
yeah, it's a situation where like where else would it go for these two people that, you know, they're both attractive people. They're both experiencing emotions they haven't either felt at all before or not for a very long time.
And both physically and mentally abused and lacking of physical contact.
They're really proxies for each other. Like, he is a super soldier that was tortured and treated like garbage most of his life, because this Halsey is not the Halsey from the games or the books. She doesn't seem to really give a shit about him. She just gives a shit about what he could do with his connection to the Forerunner tech. And now that she's got a second, he's like, well, if he's going to be a complete dick and he's also way harder to control, I could probably beat up Maki. But yeah, Chief kept keeping toe-to-toe with Vanek and Riz in their friggin' Mjolnir suits, in large part thanks to Cortana. And, you know, get into it more, but her experiencing everything alongside it. And I know people are like, oh, creepy voyeur Cortana, but it's more like she's getting to see the other side of humanity, because all she's known is Halsey and her creepy little sub friggin' guy just being the most pragmatic, ends justify the means assholes imaginable. And now she's seeing and fully experiencing, because she's in the back of his head, all these emotions and all these different states that Chief is going through. And she's like, you know, I don't like Halsey at all. And she finally makes that call. And I thought that was really well earned, because it can feel fast,
I did like
but like
that.
we're so many episodes in now. And these are not short episodes. Like, I think that felt really well earned. It's definitely, it's felt like it's earned a, It's earned the fall of Reach, because that's where it seems to be going, and that's why I was wondering how they're going to do that. And then they had a full episode that was about these two really trust each other, but the people on the periphery, the head of the UNSC and Halsey and her friggin' damn near mind control over Spartans, because she did just want to take over Chief completely.
Can I say I was right on both those points about Silver Team and Reach? Just want to say.
Yeah, they can't coexist. And also, for you bringing up the missionary position, Silver Team Sing is a wolf, so doggy style. Gotta throw that in there. But yeah, I thought it was probably the best overall one, the highest quality. No dips really for me in any of the writing. They kill there was a tropey thing where the guard who didn't like her at all, and then he starts abusing her in a similar way, and then he gets freaking fried. But I mean, like, you gotta have. Yeah, you've got to have some stuff. Like, it can't all be.
I actually like that scene, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought the scene was really well done in the sense that she really was trying to get them to go help him, but they're just so distrustful by nature of her and everything, especially when at that point they're finding out she was the one that killed their entire ship full of people alongside the Covenant. She's like, well, I didn't really have a choice. What was I going to do? I was like, yeah, but at that point you were pretty all in.
Oh yeah,
like, there's good. I think there's really good shades of gray right now. Halsey's a little mustache twirling, but it's been consistent. She's never. It doesn't feel tonally inconsistent for this version of that character. Even Parangosky and all of them, like.
I should really like Parangosky now. I thought they did.
You see where it's coming from, and you see how they're trying to deal with the realities of how shitty politics are. Like, politics are the worst, and they make people do terrible things. And you can look at them and say, well, you did that terrible thing, so you're a bad person. But the reality is sometimes they really didn't want to. They just didn't have the choice. And I think the show's done a pretty good job of that. I thought the action was really fun with the Spartan fight. And Kai continues to be the best. And Riz, Vanek's definitely... He's a cold son of a bitch. He would have shot Chief in the head, no questions asked, but Riz is there. Won't do it. Like, yeah, I was very, very high on the episode, and I can't wait to hear your terrible logic on why you didn't like it.
Well, let's start with the Spartan penis in the room. That scene that everybody's talking about.
I mean, you got to
this thing.
Master Cock.
It came right out of her fingernail.
Damn it! We still.
Yeah, you see that? Yeah.
At least they did explain how that happened, because I never that was always kind of cheesy initially, but now at least there's some sort of technological explanation, I guess. But so let's go to that. Obviously, that's the biggest controversy on the internet. That's what people are talking about. I guess the reason why I didn't care for it is I just feel like there could have been other ways to kind of approach that. Like, I get that this is going to be separate from the books or from the game and the books and all that stuff. It's going to be separate from the traditional Halo lore, but
as it has been.
Yeah, as it has been, but if you're going to really, really break it there, and you're going to now make Chief go sort of more like Commander Shepard or whatever, you're going to go in that direction completely. I don't know. Like I felt like there was probably more interesting ways to get there, because that did all kind of happen sort of fast, and just thought like how quickly he got over the fact that she's been indoctrinated and everything else. Like, to me, the problem I've had, and it's been kind of consistent through other episodes, is they just whiplash you a little bit. It's like this character went from coming down and she's going to be a plant, a spy or whatever. Suddenly they know that she's been indoctrinated. They accept it. He gets over it. She becomes good. And then it's like, it's that whole change. It just feels like these things probably need to happen over more episodes, number one. And number two, if you're going to do something like that I think, is understandably going to probably trigger, much of the Halo base, I think, for me, it just felt like you didn't have to. So maybe what's the point of going there? But, I don't know, like, talk me off this ledge here. I don't know, Austin.
They're just trying to make a good story.
No, I mean, I think calling like the way that the whole Maquis thing kind of comes to a head, a trope is fair, in the same way that calling like the fact that they had sex together a trope is also fair. I think that when we watched episode 6 and we see them, touch one another while they're on the like Amanda said, the mind meld Halo ring, all of us were on the same page that it seemed platonic. It didn't seem like there was any sort of lust there. Or at least that's the way I remember that conversation going. And now that they've had sex, it makes sense that it happened. I don't disagree inherently. I don't. Like I said, I don't think that they did a bad job with it. I just feel like, again, it was a trope that didn't need to happen. Abe, I don't think that you're completely baseless. I feel like that there are like little things that could be done in this show. Like a line of dialogue, like Miranda working on the translation for the Sing Haley voices that we hear in the like second or third episode. I think they could have done a better job of letting us know that Miranda was automating that process, that her systems were working on that dialogue breakdown automatically, because when she talks to her dad about it, she sounds like she's doing everything manually. So for her to just all of a sudden just be listening while she's like talking and working and doing everything, and like it slowly definitely starts to sound like Maquis, it seemed like, how did that happen? How did like all of a sudden she just figured it out? It almost felt like we were supposed to be in her head about it, rather than understand that the systems that she was using was doing it automatically. Like,
I thought she said a line to her dad about how she had automated it to go through all the known things.
Did she?
Yeah, I was going to say she did.
I was like, and also AI.
I was going to say it's a machine learning.
That's like 400 years in the future.
Well, and I was going to say that's basically what you do in machine learning, right? You run a series, and then you add inputs as you get output to say, hey, this is this. When she started learning more words, she threw those in to the lexicon to be able to further.
I mean, that obviously that one example isn't great, so I apologize for wasting the 2 minutes I took to explain all of that. But
we need that bar right with that.
But I do think that there is an amount of the show that could just like use a little extra setup here and there. Yeah, I do feel like you're kind of expected to fill in the gaps a little bit here and there. Like, I get it, it's fair. Like, use your brain. Like, if you're watching the show, then like use your brain about it or whatever. But
I've got to find the interview.
Feel like the show doesn't do a good enough job for everything.
And Kiki Wolfkill going over it and saying that year-long gap in between filming and losing episodes really did force them to change the pacing on stuff and try and she thinks it'll be tighter, like more compact, and make more sense in the long run for season 2, because it should be one straight shot. But yeah, that's definitely something that you can see where things were cut, which has been happening like
for sure. I think that
lately.
it's fair for us to judge the show for what it is, though.
Yeah.
Though I
Yeah,
didn't
and
have any issues following those.
But that's really, I mean, even more like, to me, the sex scene was just like, okay, you had this controversy, and you knew, like, that you could predict. You like, wouldn't even have to look at Twitter, Reddit, whatever. You already know what the response is going to be, and it's like, you know, is that controversy really necessary? You could have done it so many different ways.
I mean, most TV shows have sex scenes. I don't think they're worried about a bunch of internet nerds who can't handle it because the guy
Well, it's
videos
Master
video
Chief. Master Chief doesn't.
Yeah, but it's a I mean, it's a TV show. It's not a.
And
video
it
game.
was
It's not the
very, it
living
was like,
character.
there wasn't even butts
Right.
in this scene. Like they
I
made a point to like not make it
yeah.
lewd or
Right,
cheesy. It was barely a sex scene. It was just an intimate scene.
I get it. I just didn't like him like having a relationship with her. To be honest with you, I'm still not really
Just
sold on
jealous.
that. Not.
Dan's raised his hand.
Go ahead, Dan. Yell over me.
Really
Tell me to
quick.
get in line.
You know, I'm going to use data here. There were 6 of us here. 5 of us didn't have a problem with it. You have to remember that that's probably what it's actually like for the majority of the audience that watch the show. Because the people online, on Twitter, on Reddit, or Halo, on Reddit overall, like, they are not analogous to the majority of. I mean, they're the vocal, loud, just, you know, it's the same thing with any discussion about Halo or anything else. Like, those are the people who spend more time playing it or whatever, and they don't represent the majority. And I'm saying that because we shouldn't be building something that has to adhere to every little nuance of the Twitter nerds, right? Like, as somebody who I mean, again, I've been following Halo since it was unveiled in 1999 on Macworld at Apple stage. I'm as OG as it gets, and I don't know. I just think that the majority of what Halo fans or Twitter people who probably don't even watch the show and they're just regurgitating what somebody else said, as we've seen in our comments on this YouTube video, where some people say, "Hey, I haven't even watched it, but YouTube watched it for me," and
Yep.
you know, or Twitter watched it for me, and I know what happened in the episode. It's like, I don't know. I think basing a trajectory of a narrative around those people is a recipe for disaster.
Potentially.
I agree.
yeah.
Okay, one thing I wanted to mention really quick,
Okay.
sorry, was, they actually kind of foreshadowed a fair bit. Not foreshadowed per se, but so the book that Chief gives her, right? It's the book that she was reading with her boyfriend or whoever back then. And then that's when she kissed, right? Her boyfriend back then, way back in like her, not even boyfriend, man, like acquaintance that got killed in the episode
friend.
2 or 3
Yeah.
or something. Her friend, yeah.
The
So
little
it
kid
felt-
who we saw dead with his eyes open. Yeah.
So it felt to me like that same kind of thing happened where she read the book and then that she did the same thing she did last time, which was the kiss, and then that led to more. You know what I mean? Because if you watch the scene, I'm pretty sure she's the one who initiates the kiss,
Right.
and then it leads.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to mention too. Is like, they're both, emotionally naive. They're both, they've both been physically and mentally abused. I mean, there's a lot of in this episode especially, they really hit that like analogous pivot point between like your UNSC character and your Covenant character. And they are direct mirrors of each other, right? I mean, they both are scarred from their child upbringing.
Jesse.
They're both. God, stop it, Jesse. It's like they both have been socially and emotionally isolated. So to have that near epiphanic experience, come to Jesus moment, whatever you want to call it, on the Halo ring in episode 6, I feel like it was the spark, and then that as they realize that they're both essentially the same in those regards, I think it seemed organic to me. I don't know.
For me, it was less about the intimacy and more about what I didn't like at first was just the trust aspect, right? Where I'm like, how does Chief
that's what I was going to get to.
trust her so much already? And then going yesterday and going today, I'm thinking, I'm like, how did that happen? I don't like this. That doesn't make sense. And now I've kind of come to terms with it because of what Chief says when they're frolicking in the park, right? Which that was a great line. And also, I really loved Chief's line because that, to me, that embodies his character, not just in the show, but also his character in the games, where he's like, I have faith or I have hope in humanity.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I do what I do, because I think humanity is capable of good or capable of so much. And so for me, I kind of connect it now where it's like that line of his hope in humanity. And then he switches her to being not Covenant, but a human. Right. So it's like, I have now hope or trust in you. And at the end of the day, it was warranted trust. Right. She literally could have killed him with the energy blade when she had her fingers on his neck. And instead, what did she do? She took the finger out. Right, which I was watching a review from someone else, and I totally missed this parallel, but that was a straight up parallel to Chief removing the pellet from his own body. Right,
Yep.
I completely missed that parallel, but that's a clear cut parallel right there.
Like I said, this episode is layered with them.
Yep, I do think they're not really that equated because I mean she's working for a genocidal, insane people that kill literally millions and hundreds of millions, and Chief's doing the exact opposite. He's just trying.
No,
to
he's working for Halsey.
Yeah.
Okay, Chief's not working for someone that just glassed a city and killed 11 million people in that one single city. All right, like there's a difference there. There's a
The version of
Slight
UNSC that we're getting in the show is definitely a little bit more nefarious.
There's no both sides in this one.
Yeah, no. That's in fact that was one of my main issues with the show in general was trying to equate the UNSC to the Covenant because yes, the UNSC are pretty bad. Yeah, they probably do a lot of stuff, shady stuff under the shadows, or screw with people's resources, or steal more than they're supposed to. But they don't go and like wipe cities off or planets off the face of the galaxy, right? They don't go and mass murder hundreds of millions, if not billions, of people, and like are happy when they do so. So it's it is not the same thing.
Well, I mean, even in the games, that ended up being the thing with the Covenant, where it was shades of gray within the Covenant, where the Prophets were truly terrible, the Brutes weren't great either, and the Sangheili eventually were the ones who were like, oh shit, you lied to us, and this is really bad, we should stop, and then they get kicked out. So
And the engineers were enslaved.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think there will be UNSC mostly good, Covenant mostly bad for a while, and then they'll start weaving things again, especially with Halsey and her straight up, I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in everything, or a spanner in the works, as the Brits
She's
say.
a straight up villain in this show.
She wants what she wants, and she wants humanity to be more than what they are. And it doesn't matter if it has to be her way, and she's got this
kind of
almost full control.
Master Builder vibes a little bit in her speech in this episode. I'm like, yeah, that's my favorite vibes right there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I got to get this off my chest, you guys, real quick before we change pace. I am bummed out that I didn't tweet about it because I just now thought about it, but I'm forever going to refer to the television show's version of this character as Cucktana. I got such a huge kick out of just thinking about that. I am so sorry to stop the show for that, but please continue.
Oh man! The Cortana flip was that. So if we want to get to some positive, I thought that one did. I did like that, and honestly, that was probably more earned than it was in the games. Honestly, if we were talking about the story stuff, because
she had been questioning stuff so much and was like, I just want to help, and I'm not just a robot, and like I have, because it's pretty obvious that being the first one, they made her like the first one because they kind of didn't want people to know exactly what she was. And it wasn't like this tried and true thing. And there's been a growth process, and I think letting it earn into the relationship that they eventually had, right off the bat in the game, pretty much. But it was like built up in the books where she chose him. I think this is a nice alternative.
The nuance between like doing it this way, where she's the first like smart AI, right, versus the way that they do it in the games universe, where she's the only smart AI that's ever been made with living tissue.
Right.
And a clone of a living tissue at that, I think is a great parallel for trying to establish that for people who have never been Halo fans before that are just watching it as a show. I thought the incredibly interesting dynamic between Cortana and Halsey's hubris and her thinking like, I have enough control over Cortana to not have to worry about what happening. Yep. And then just to like watch Halsey like be enthralled by it happening in real time. because like of course Halsey would have gotten a hard on for that. Like of course Halsey was like, hell yeah, my AI went rogue. Hell yeah, they did.
She made an AI so good it has its own. It's getting emotions.
It's
like
an actual
she said
artificial intelligence.
Yeah, she said sentimentality, and she's like, she's got that. She actually, oh my god, I'm better than I thought I was. I actually
that
made
no
an intelligence.
sentiment line. The impression I got was as in like she doesn't care about Halsey just because Halsey created her. Like I'm not feeling sentimental of that.
Well, it's not even sentimental about Chief. Like Halsey's willing to sacrifice Chief, and
no, I mean Cortana's like no sentiment line. You know what I mean when she says that to.
That was just a ploy. I mean, that's just to throw her off of the game, that to make her to think that she's not attached to Chief.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that Halsey just completely overlooks how blatantly Cortana is growing. Her feelings are like all over her face, but she was just so caught up in her own shit. If she would have just looked at her, she would have known that Cortana is going the other way.
I told you this was going to happen. I told you.
Yeah, trust your clone.
It was going to happen. I told you it was going to happen.
Like so, like cartoonishly.
That guy needs to suffer some really
well, if they're still on Reach next week, then yeah, he'll probably get it.
Well, I mean, I really want to see like what a skewer death looks like with him.
Yeah.
So Trav
I actually wanted to see him be more creepy. I only saw it the one time, and I'm like, I want to see just how more creepy he really is. Like, you really just, it's weird. Like, I wish they would have like kept with that a little bit, not like every episode.
I wish that he had watched them have
him do
sex
really
with
weird
Cortana.
things.
No, he watched Cortana watching them.
Yeah, he would have watched and tried to kiss Cortana while she's watching them.
I think it's been implied enough how much of a creep he is. I think I'm just ready for
Dude, I forgot. I just remembered him like trying to kiss the dead Halsey. Like, fuck.
About to be dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
but also we only saw that, and we didn't really see any more creepiness from him. I wonder if they just like forgot. But
I mean, how do you forget that? I mean, that guy. Since then, I've been just waiting for him.
Have you guys seen the Sonic movies at all?
No.
Yeah.
I'm not a.
You know Agent Stone. He reminds me so much of Agent Stone.
Dude, that's a great comparison. A way creepier version.
Way creepier.
Oh, yeah.
Great comparison.
Yeah, I know this guy was a little bit creepier.
Agent Stone, when Tails was pinned down and he was all knocked out and he was going down to kiss him. I remember
Weird.
that.
Anyway, one of the things that I kept mentioning earlier in the season was that, they really had to convince me that flip was earned, that it made sense when actually Cortana actually does. And I think they did for all the, Abe, I do share some of those complaints about some of the whiplash. Like, I think that, there's that balance that sometimes the show leans too far into where they want the user, the viewers to have a little bit of thought processes, and they skip over things that maybe they should throw in there a little bit. But I felt like for all those kind of sometimes rushed elements, this was actually, I think that's one of the reasons I don't have a problem with the sex scene, because the sex scene also showed Cortana, like everybody talks about the voyeurism, right? But really it showed Cortana the humanity that she hasn't been seeing. It showed her love. It showed her, that it's not all just about, the thing that she's protecting, the thing that she's trying to save from the Covenant isn't Halsey's version of humanity. It's what's actually happening in the park in between Chief and Maquis, and seeing that, and then leading into those conversations where she's enabled Zed Protocol and she's about to shut Chief down. Like, you can see that very rapid kind of degradation of Halsey's sensibilities, and that directly fed into that flip. And it, we got there's two of us in here now, remember, quote, we got, some of those great moments that we always kind of hope for, little Easter eggs in there, but like those moments leading up to that flip really sold it, that this is, even though other elements like Halsey isn't quote unquote our Halsey, this is very much our Cortana. So
Yeah, and I actually will agree with you. Like Cortana's can I think that and Trav says it. I think Jen Taylor is. He said she's a show MVP. I think her and Kai have been like the best characters in the show so far.
I want to talk about Kai so bad.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, I think Jen Taylor's done a really good job. Probably one of the best jobs on the show so far. And I think she's done a really good job selling Cortana. And with Cortana, all that, whether you are a book and game fan or just watching the show, they've sold it both ways with Cortana, because we really early on you learn that she processed the whole galaxy or whatever, all that information, right? So you expect that in seconds you're processing the thing that a normal human might take a long time for. And you've had plenty of time. There's been enough. She's been exposed to enough things to start formulating other opinions, and she's kind of learning. And I think that if she does have that ability to feel, that makes sense. So her flip was cool, and actually that was like one of those to me, that was one of the better moments in the show, when she's like, okay, now I'm on your side. That's kind of what we've been waiting for. I mean, at least that's something that I've been waiting for
sure.
Kind of like, hey, this is Chief's Cortana. So
when
that
the
was
camera
cool.
pans to her like being missing. I thought that was so well done.
Yeah.
And I think her look, I know how much people hit it early on, but I think her CGI and her overall look have been
I'm okay with it now.
Phenomenal this episode. I thought. The
like the
best.
CGI work on it is, it is so good.
Yeah. I mean, look at that. Still, that looks amazing.
In the commercial, it didn't. When they first showed it, it didn't look right.
Even the
But
early episodes, it didn't look that good.
maybe it's just grown on me. I don't know what it is. I'm fine with it.
It's
though.
full
I don't
time and budget, versus throwing it together for a commercial.
And if we're speaking about special effects, what did you guys think of Reach? First of all, I guess I'll ask you guys. I
thought it looked wonderful. Pretty
Except
lame
for
that they
Reach
called it
City.
Reach City.
Reach City.
I was like, oh man, really using the whole budget on that one?
Yeah, no Manassas or New Alexandria or anything like that. It's
The amount of practical that they're doing is
awesome.
awesome. It's
Yeah, it's going to age
fantastic.
very well.
Even just the chief walking and the Marines in like full armor, like I just love those scenes.
Well, and
They've talked about it before.
They're not even being like too aggressive with like the Halo scenes CGI. Like they're being very careful about how often they show like the Halo cascading up into the horizon. And like God, even the visual effects in those scenes are beautiful. This whole show looks great.
So dreamlike too. Like they
nailed it, man.
Well.
Yeah, I really did like to me that was one of the other really high moments for me. Just when they're going through that, it did feel. I don't know what I was.
A man and a woman being in love is too hurtful. It reminds you of your ex. I get why you're not going to be that into those scenes, but yes, I think their focus on the practical for the special effects side is paid off in spades. It looks fantastic.
Amanda,
and again, I keep going back to like this. Almost feels like a good Mass Effect TV show. I mean,
this is what Halo would be if it had been an RPG. Like everyone said, I want a Halo RPG. It's going to get more adult and more relationship and stuff.
Even the artifact, that whole connection there, just some of the mystical aspects of it.
And you need more mystery for a story like this, I think, especially anything space.
I think if you approach this as you separate it from the games completely, you just say like this. It does have a real Mass Effect and feel, and as a sci-fi show, there is things that I do like, but I do want to get into some of the other whiplash. And so even a bigger problem really for me, the biggest one was the fact that Maki did the full. Just did the full 360 this episode. She went from, bad to good, all the way to good, and then all the way back to bad.
I don't think she went to good. She didn't care about humanity. She just trusted him.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, I'm here on the Covenant, but boy, I really like this John guy. Yeah, he's really nice, and he's convincing me, oh my God, everyone else is an asshole. Like, it wasn't all the way bad to all the way good to all the way bad. It was more...
She restored the faith in humanity.
Yeah, she saw someone that she had that super deep connection with, and then she saw how everyone else didn't care, was trying to attack him, going after him. Was like, yeah, you know what? Everything that I remember and everything they've been telling me, it's still all here.
I don't blame the UNSC for. In fact, the one thing I do blame them for is bringing her in that room in the first place. That was a terrible idea. She should never have been in that room. But I don't blame them at all for being like, what the heck? Like, she admits to being part of the Covenant. Like, a few hours after they saw a city glassed. Like, come on. That reaction
Yeah.
was completely
But it's-
understandable, I thought.
But the coincidence, though, and that's the part too. It's
But
like,
that's just
all right,
television, right?
I know it's just television, but it's like, so that at the same time that Keys learns that it's her, that she's standing in the room with the artifact, that you have the asshole guy, like it was just too many. And then Halsey miscalculates, who's, by the way, like, despite being kind of, mostly towards evil or self-serving, she's been pretty smart throughout most of the episodes. I thought this was kind of clunky or clumsy, the way she approached it. It was like not careful at all. And so, I mean, all that stuff kind of coming together, this perfect storm of incidents that just turned her right back. And it's like, to me, that's the stuff that I get annoyed with any
Halsey
sort of-
was just about to get kicked off. Like she didn't
I think
have
that
time.
she was thinking that she was being careful and perfect. She thought everything would just go very smoothly and
Her own hubris.
and there would be no issues. Yeah. It was the hubris issue. The same with not thinking Cortana would betray her. She thought that she had a great plan and was going to go exactly the way she wanted it to.
And if Cortana hadn't, they would have, right? If Cortana shut Chief down, they would have just taken Chief, taken Kai, taken Maquis, probably taken the artifact without any trouble, and gone to the ship. Like, it would have been very smooth.
Yeah, the whole plan relied on Cortana knocking out Chief and eventually taking him over. If that
By the way,
happens, everything that
so-
she wanted would have happened.
This episode confirmed it again. She can take him over. So when
Right.
Chief was testing her limits, was that just a bluff on Cortana and Halsey's part?
I don't know if it
She
would
could shut him
be
down. I don't
reversible.
think-
Well,
Yeah, no,
I think, yeah.
she can
No,
shut him
Halsey
down.
says, yeah,
Oh,
Halsey said you can do the thing we had talked about, which is you
Right.
taking him over entirely.
Yeah.
And I don't think that would be reversible. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Oh.
That line really cements that this is not the Halsey of the games, the books, or
Correct.
anything. This is a complete different character.
Right.
Why? Because she doesn't actually care for John, which is
Correct.
like a defining trait of the character in the games. Like all the bad crap she does, at the end of the day, she still cares so much for John and Spartan 2s in the games and the books. In the show, that is clearly not the case. So that's like a hard division in the character things, and that worked for me because now I just completely separate the two. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's like, okay, let's see where this.
I'm okay
version
with
has
that.
goes.
Different, yeah. I mean, that
Yeah, but-
differentiation, it does add something to the show, right? It does give it a different dynamic. But
I'm
To Abe-
excited for the arc
what are you
that
saying?
pays off with the Covenant and Halsey teaming up. Legitimately think something like that could be very interesting to see happen in some point.
they
Sorry,
already
Jake.
went into it and did it in the comics. So
Comics,
I mean,
Spartan-
that was the bridge 4 to
Spartan
5. Yeah.
to
And then in between, oh sorry, I'll be quick, Dan. But yeah, the bridge, Spartan Ops into 5, and they had all those comics where she was just working with them. Go, Dan.
I was just going to say to Abe's point, my biggest complaint was, I understand, the cadence of building those moments of tension. I understand that, you're always going to have some elements of tropes. But I felt like that moment around, Maquis being in the artifact room and all that kind of stuff, like that was a little bit too convenient because so she's had these samples from that ship for how many days now, and like right when and she says earlier in she's cut out the super high frequencies and she's cut out the low frequencies. Well, Maquis' voice isn't a super high frequency, right? It's mid high. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, 2 kilohertz, right? So it wouldn't have cut those out. Like, just as an audio nerd, there were so many dumb parts of that. Like, that was my biggest complaint, was that they relied a little bit too heavily on some of those tropes of like trying to build that tension. Now, oh wait, we made this discovery right when, she's in the room. That's my biggest complaint. But most of the other things I think were believable. Like Halsey's hubris, totally believable, because that's Halsey in the games, but it's also very much this Halsey, that we got in the TV show. But the coincidences in the, I totally understand like the traumatic triggering of being burned with the electric stick, whatever they call it in this one, just like she was when she was a child. It's I don't know. That was okay, I think, but I think just the culmination of all those elements at the same time, the convenience of it, I think that was my biggest complaint. And I don't think that she made a flip all the way to good But I do also feel that was a little bit rushed. Like, we got like 20 minutes of good McKee, and then it's like back
or
to
almost good McKee.
Yeah,
right?
almost
Like, hey,
good
A McKee that doesn't want to work for the Covenant anymore is how I think of it. Not a good
Right.
McKee,
That
not
was-
a bad one, but like, John, I'm with you, and that's why she asked him the questions, and John gave the answers, and she's still like, you know what, it's okay, I'm with this guy. Let's see what
Right.
happens.
It's
Because,
semantics.
to
you
be
know-
honest,
go ahead.
she's not going to find love and connection and family with the Covenant.
Right.
She's just not, and that's
Oh,
just
yeah,
something she's going to
She's
miss
definitely
out
not going to find
on
what
for
she
her
found with.
entire life.
She's definitely not going to find what she found with Master Chief.
Look, I've told you the history of the San Shayum, the prophets. They were fuck machines. So they still have their warrior class. Who knows what they're packing?
hard pass.
You just can't say that it wouldn't happen.
Oh my God! All right,
it's
well,
a-
somebody
it's a
save
chance.
us! Somebody save us! Oh my God, my cat's
Man
jumping on
tried.
stuff. Sorry.
I
all
think
right.
a fun thing to talk about next would be the insanely cool fight and characterization
Oh my God.
of Silver
Hustler
Team.
Kai too. Hustler
Oh
Kai.
my God! Oh, of course. Like, oh, dude, Kai's whole like recovery scene was phenomenal. What a cool scene! I love that. Alex Wakeford, Haraspus, got on Twitter and tweeted a little clip of Kai like doing the workouts that she was doing, and said like, "Oh, that wasn't even for the show. That was just footage that we got."
I saw that.
Well, Kate Kennedy was on set doing cool
Yeah.
stuff. It was such a good scene. The like grifting that she was doing. It was so good.
Pay up. It was
Well, and if anybody wondered if the show Spartans could flip warthogs like they can in the games, they can.
I mean, and
So-
like it was just another cool layer, right? Like we see them running faster than warthogs
Yes.
in what, episode 4, episode 5?
Five.
I can never remember
Yeah, I
which
can't
one's
remember
which.
Five was the action one.
with time.
So it's cool to see them be like, yeah, not only can it pick this up and run faster than it, like I could probably throw it further than it can drive in the same amount of time. Like super cool characterization stuff there.
Yeah, agreed. I mean the just that whole scene where she's lifting the warhog, asking who's paying next, just showing that like, you know, when Riz talks about how she's not sure if she's, you know, battle ready, we're all thinking, right, she's probably still laying in bed or whatever. But no, she's hustling. She's determined. She's discovering her own humanity and using, you know, her strength to you know, whatever advantage she can to build that humanity. I don't know. It was so awesome, and I called it. I said that it's going to be Kai and Chief versus Riz and Vanek.
Oh yeah,
and
you did call it.
I did call it.
Yeah.
My wife hates watching shows and movies with me because I almost always predict what's going to happen.
That's a pretty good tag team match, by the way.
That was
know,
fucking amazing. God, that running like knee high kick that she did. Oh,
that was pretty
so
cool.
freaking cool.
Yeah.
I really loved Riz hesitating
Yes.
at the end of that scene. I'm bummed out that we didn't get like a non-interrupted conclusion to that,
Yeah.
because I think that could have meant a lot. Like that Riz was so willing to consider like, this is John though. Like,
Yeah.
am I gonna kill John? Am I gonna hurt John that bad? It was super cool to see. You know, it's not like the Spartans are emotionless, and I don't even think that they're meant to be that way in the show. Given like Vanek's response to Kai in that episode, where he says, you know,
Yeah,
stop asking
dumbass
dumbass questions, right?
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot there that says that these guys obviously care about each other, and Vanek was the only one by the end of the scene that was still like, we're still on mission, right? Like we're
Yeah.
still doing what Halsey told us to. It was super cool to get that from Riz.
So, do we think eventually they're all going to get their pellets out and they're all going to be on the same team again? Or
No,
are
I
we
mean,
gonna
if you
keep
saw the
this-
trailer that first came out, the second trailer for the show, there's a scene that hasn't showed up yet, which always kind of annoying when they put a scene from the very last episode in a trailer. I just gotta say,
Oh, I don't
Yeah,
even
what
remember
scene
it.
was
The
that?
fall
Yeah.
of Reach would get them all back on the same spot and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when
Alright.
they convince them of what Halsey did, Vanek probably won't care, but Riz definitely will.
Yeah.
Vanek will be
Who's-
like, good, that was smart of her.
You know
So,
what?
do we
He-
think Fall of Reach is going to wipe out some of the Spartans? Prediction, Daniel. You're good at these predictions.
I mean, the weird thing is we haven't seen any other Spartans, right, other than Silver Team.
Yeah.
So we have no.
We only have so much money.
No mention of it either.
I was gonna say, so we don't know if they're on Reach or off world somewhere else.
That could be a really cool like end credit scene for the whole season. Other Spartans showing up.
or like Chief and Silver Team like going through the rubble and picking up buildings off of Spartan corpses. Either one. I don't know. I'm guessing that we're definitely going to see some Spartan deaths. Sorry for getting morbid.
I mean, it to me that would make sense in the show. Honestly, to kind of bring back a little bit of a sense of
Unity.
And loss. I think you need to have that. So, as much as they're.
Sorry, back to the fight for a little bit, if we're still on that. One thing I thought was really cool in the fight, and I know I watched a few reaction videos, and everyone kind of caught this stuff, was how they showed their strength. Right, Riz comes, punches, and the weapon just breaks. She breaks the weapon, and she also kicks the 45 plate in half.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that was
like those small little scenes there, just like really show or for example, how they really set up like Vanek punches the pillar and it breaks, and then they show him punching Chief's face, and it's like holy crap, that's the same strength that he used to break that pillar. You know what I mean? And like it really hammers home, pun intended, the intensity of this fight. Where it's like, no, these guys aren't playing around anymore. So like for example, when they had the gun on Chief, I'm like, whoa, I feel this tension a little bit, right? I mean, I know she's not going to shoot him, or at least on the head, but it's like I could see it happening. I thought the fight scene was just really well done, and in general, it looks like that's 3 for 3 when it comes to the show and fight scenes. It's just
most of it though. There was a couple, just two things that stood out. Number one, Master Chief getting punched without his helmet. I feel like your face would have exploded without the helmet.
Well, they have a stronger bone structure and stuff too, right?
Maybe that.
But
the other one was like when he had a few shots on his shield and he says, I just need another shot to take his shield down. It's like, come on, his shield should have come back up at that point.
Yes, that I'll agree.
That part, because I feel like
Gen 1 shield pack.
Because even in
they're playing on Legendary, so it takes a long time.
Yeah. It's like,
though you could argue the constant punching prevented the shield from recharging because he never really went down in a cover or anything.
Was it Halo 5? Like because he's moving too fast, the shield's on.
Yeah, it could be.
The kinetic element. Yeah.
Because I remember in the first episode of the season, didn't like he get for cover and the shield went back up or whatever?
Yeah.
Or am I misremembering that? So that was inconsistent. Like unless
I also
you're just
don't
doing
think
the Halo
that
5
Vanek is going to punch through his face and kill him. I mean, you can temper it a bit,
That's true.
He's not just going to immediately pummel him into freaking meat juice. He's gonna like temper it a little bit.
Meat juice a little.
Amanda, could you imagine how different this show would be if it was just Vanek just like BAM!
Okay, we're done.
Explodes.
The end.
It's like, all right, I'm Master
Face
Chief now.
explodes.
It was interesting. I feel like even at the ending, it wasn't going to be a kill shot
Meat juice.
when Riz had the gun on Chief because technically their orders was to bring him in.
Yeah,
Right?
they're not
to kill him.
supposed to kill him.
And we've seen in the
Yeah,
other
that's
episode,
true.
what's his
That's
face gets hit in the neck and he's fine, right? Literally shot through the neck and he's still walking.
Well,
Yeah,
what
look,
got
Vanek goes
cut
all
out of
Negan from.
The thing that got cut out of the show was the line where Riz says, "Set phasers to stun."
Oh my god.
That's what the problem there was.
Chief had the commando didn't shoot. Like in general, a lot of storytelling in that fight too, which is what I always love.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Dude,
I was gonna say.
coming in like such a badass.
I told
It
you
was
that
such a
time
cool
kick, man.
scene.
Oh.
Even just a
She
scene of her
did
getting
straight
knocked
up
out.
just like Karate Kid knocked Vanek on his ass.
And like when they knocked her out, that like I mean it was pretty telegraphed if you kind of knew what was coming, but if you didn't, it was just boom, boom, and you're like, what the hell just
dude.
happened?
Yeah.
I thought I was
Yeah,
unmuted.
Those knocks to the back of Chief's head though, like I was like, damn, that's gonna leave some brain damage.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say real quick about how like when we watch Corridor Crew a lot and they break down fights and stuff, and they're always talking about how important it is to tell a story with a fight.
Yep.
And they did that. It was yeah.
I agree. Totally.
It wasn't just a mindless Michael Bay, bunch of shit blowing up,
And
there
nobody's
was a little
mentioned
bit.
it. Nobody's mentioned it, but we finally got the Cortana that we're used to, right? Like calling actions out.
I liked that.
Directing Chief.
I know how the game is played, Cortana.
Yeah. God, it was such a good scene.
Yeah, no, that stuff's definitely been good. So, like, are we ready to kind of go to our like final thoughts on this, or do you guys, do we miss any major things you need?
I think it was very telling to see them react to the glassing of
Oh, that's right. The
Criterion.
glass.
planet.
I can't remember. Yeah.
Criterion.
It-
That was
Yes,
that was
thank you.
good. That was a significant.
I think it was great. It definitely didn't seem like it was the first time it had happened in this universe, which makes sense. You know, obviously the Covenant are an established presence when the show starts, but the way that everyone reacts makes it feel like maybe this planet is closer to Reach than anything else has been. Because I feel like at that point, especially all of these military personnel would have been used to seeing this by now. Especially personnel on Reach, right? Like the big military hub for the UNSC. It almost kind of establishes like this foreshadowing of, hey, like this is coming. And even the characters are keen enough to be like, shit, we're not long for this world. It'll be interesting to see who they decide to get rid of if we see a glassing next episode.
We also forgot to mention the line where Chief is, where God, I can remember the admiral's name, but her and Keyes are talking about how like, oh, you can't just undo 20 years of indoctrination or decades of indoctrination in a flip of a switch, right? And Chief's like, I did, and he did, right? Like the removal of the pellet, the realization of self through the Forerunner devices, all that kind of stuff. Like that was such a great line because. Again, this episode is layered with parallels between Chief and McKee and Cortana, or I'm sorry, Halsey and the Prophets. UNSC and Covenant. Jesus Christ, just back and forth with all these like elements of analogy between them that really show that there are a lot of mirrors in the show of each other. And I felt like that was such a great line right after we obviously see the glassing of a planet and Chief saying they're hunting us, right? So,
I also
so
really
does anybody at this point do any? Because Daniel, you bring up really good points with that whole parallel thing, and I feel like in the originals, like the Arbiter was kind of somewhat a parallel. I mean, not exactly, but does anybody think that McKee is actually the spiritual successor to the Arbiter now more than you did? Because I think we talked about this earlier in the season.
I called it a proxy to. Yep.
Most people
I don't
thought
think so,
no.
personally.
You still don't think so?
Especially considering, so we weren't up until this point, we weren't sure if she was like a soldier. You know what I mean? Like a fighter. And after seeing this episode, at least the impression I got was that she isn't. She's more like an oracle or like a guide or whatnot. She's not like a trained killer, trained soldier like the Chief or the other Spartans or whatnot. Which actually I really like, because unless she had like her own procedures and stuff, if you guys remember when the show first started, the trailer, I was worried that they were gonna have like Chief lose like physical battles to someone that's like not like a Spartan or an elite or something. And I'm really happy the route the show took, where it's less physical, more like. I'm their blessed one, whatever the heck the word was.
Right.
Yeah,
And
that explains the finger sword, because she can't carry weapons on her, obviously, and she's not a warrior. They had to give her some way to protect herself. So we got the finger sword explained.
Yeah.
I'll accept that. That's good.
And I think Aarsal, when I'm talking about the proxy to the Arbiter, it's not.
You mean finding out that they're not? It's not a great journey, right? It's just
No, he means the sex scene.
Yeah, but the Arbiter is so much more than just that, though, right? He's like the military, or he's like the spiritual leader.
He is more than sex, but the sex is pretty important to him.
The separating jaw really helps. What?
Yeah, but I mean, like the Arbiter discovering the lie of the Great Journey was just one part of his character. Like, there's so much more to him than just that.
I hope they have.
Right,
I hope someday, eventually, they bring the Arbiter in, whether it's spiritual or
I mean, if this show ends with the fall of Reach, it's gonna. If it starts following the game events afterwards, then it's gonna reach those points. Feels like it.
Yeah.
By the way, is that what we think is happening at the very last scene? It's Reach, right? It's not Madrigal. I was always kind of debating between the two.
I called that 4 episodes ago.
I know, but I mean, like, I was kind of like, is it Madrigal? Is it Reach? Which one's it gonna be?
I don't know.
Why it's going to be Reach. Reach looks a lot more expensive to produce than Magical. So
I'm super torn about it, because they've set up this portal on Madrigal now.
Yeah.
Which I guess they could eventually change the location of the Ark to be on Madrigal, but I don't know that. Yeah. That's what I mean. No, you're totally right. I feel like the end of the show, if they decide to glass Reach, does not end with like an alternative to the Pillar of Autumn going to the Halo ring. I feel like it has to end with everyone ending up on freaking Madrigal.
Yep.
Yeah, this is last
And, like,
episode's gonna be magical.
what a
That's
bummer.
for sure. Yeah.
Well, Keys is a totally different role too, as is
Yeah.
Miranda.
So he is a captain, so we might see him captain the
right,
ship.
but he's not. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like Keys was. I mean, he was like the Adama of Halo CE, right? And we don't
Yes.
see that in the show yet at all.
By the way, I do like the daddy-daughter relationship of
Yes,
Keys in
that was a
there.
good scene. in this
I
episode.
think that's good because you can tell if Keys eventually gets taken over by the flood, it'd be a more emotional thing. But I do like that development there. It's
And Rando's kind of
it's-
wasted in the games, I felt. Especially
Yeah,
later on.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would kind of agree with that. She wasn't
To
really.
war.
I love that sign though. I'm not gonna lie, even though it's the dumbest. The guy's probably like, "What, lady? Oh, we've been in war for like decades."
I know, poor
All right,
be the
Gillian's
planet.
like,
We gotta
what
go
are
to
we
the
gonna
planet
do,
war.
ma'am? Please. And she's like, fucking fine now.
You know,
All right, let's-
actually, speaking of Keys, he had a great scene in this episode. I thought with him and Cortana. I'm sorry, him and Halsey.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, right. When they were arguing, with them back and forth, I felt that was like had a couple really nice lines.
Hmm.
So let's go to final thoughts, and if there's anything we missed, you can cover them in your final thoughts. I'm just going to go around the table. I guess we'll start in reverse order from the way we started the show. So Jesse, I'll let you go first. Kind of your wrap-up thoughts and your score.
Wrap up thoughts. By far, I think the most even. I think 5 and 6 were before. Like 5, weak start, great end. 6, pretty good the entire time, and then 7, obviously Quan, better than average for her, but still not nearly as good as this was. This one, the entire time, I was just really into it. Like I really enjoyed it. I felt like I understood a lot of the motivations and what was going on. Certain things are tropey with the way timing worked and all that, but at least it all made sense, I think, in the long run. Good payoffs, and yeah, it's probably my favorite episode. I don't remember if the highest I've given is an 8.5 or a 9, but whatever that was, it can go 0.1 above that. So 8.6 or 9.1.
All right. Amanda, let's go to you.
Yeah, it might have been my favorite episode, and I don't want to reopen discussion about the sex scene, but I do want to just point out, like, if you remember your first boyfriend or girlfriend or your first crush, just remember how hard you fell, and then and then adding like a mind meld on top of that, and I'm pretty sure that any one of us would have fallen into the same situation real quick. So yeah, I give this episode, like, honestly, I give it like a 9.5. I think it was the best one. It was really great. It felt like a movie, and really took you on a ride, so I really liked it.
Amanda, you bring up a really good point. I didn't really even think about that, but it's been brought up before that Chief is kind of going through puberty, right? So you're right. I don't remember why I was as whooped on. You made me think about that. I won't tell you about that date though. That's probably for off the air. But anyways, let's go.
Subscribe to
Dan.
patreon.com.
There's a lot of hard writing.
Oh my god, it was such a disaster.
Once we start up the Nick OnlyFans, we can tell the story on that.
Yeah.
Jesus.
First date stories. That would be funny.
Oh,
Like,
man.
not video game related, but all of our first date stories and how much of a mess it was.
Yeah.
Oh my god, and how easy you felt.
Doing
about it.
eBay.
There I
It's
was,
completely
Cheeto
related.
dust on my hands.
Yeah, I remember. No, I remember. I went to go see Flipper, and the person literally spilled candy on me, and it was like a neighbor, somebody that like I didn't have a crush on. Like, we already knew each other. It was a big mess. It was really bad.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, I got so nervous on my first date that I think I was the one who forced her to have braces. But Daniel, how about you?
My first date or the episode?
No, episode.
Oh man, probably give it a 9. It was really solid. I agree with Jesse. Like, there's a lot less, aside from those elements I complained about. There was a lot less that was kind of there wasn't as much of an ebb and flow between quality of like the writing and the scenes. It's pretty solid.
Okay, that's cool. I'm going to go in the middle just to balance me up. Now, Amanda, you did ask early on, like, why am I even here? Which is a fair question. But I'll say that for all my criticisms, I think there is like frustrations in it. But to me, it's more of a mixed thing. It's not all negative, but just some things do stand out as like really missed opportunities. I still had fun with certain aspects of the show. Like I said, I enjoyed the reach, the scenery, the tone of all that. And some of the tone throughout the show, I did think the stuff with Kai was cool, and most of the ending.
That's because you have such a big crush on her.
Yeah.
but again, my biggest negatives, I ask questions about the sex thing mostly because it's like, did it really need to be here? But whatever, we could.
They should have made friendship bracelets together instead.
But but I won't reopen that one. To me, it's really my biggest criticisms really were just the whiplash, and I'll just keep using that word. It's just things keep developing a little bit too fast, except for except for Cortana, which was okay with that. I thought a lot of too many coincidences and tropey things that happen in a lot of TV shows. I will grant that, but I just would hope that they'll get smarter about that and start to build up a little bit better in the future. So if I take this is one of the hardest ones for me to score, I'm just going to fall in the middle and say it's about a 7. So just some low lows.
So
and some
much
high
being
highs.
hard.
Yeah, it was no pun intended, obviously. So let's go to Soul.
Yep. So really quick on the puberty point, it's even less about puberty. It's more like he literally experienced like every emotion in the last 6-7 episodes, right? He experienced anger, grief, sadness, happiness, joy a little bit, And I feel like this was just affection, was just the next one on the list, is what it felt to me. In terms of the episode, I liked it. I really liked it. I had no problems with it at all. But I'm a sucker for like really nice combat. So this isn't my favorite episode. I'd give it like an 8. 8's a good score, I think.
Lots of being hard and sucking and Man, you guys are also
I wouldn't
in
even
your
call it a
language.
sex scene, honestly. More like an intimate
It wasn't.
scene. And even
Right,
that,
right.
It wasn't.
It's not
It
Game
was,
of Thrones. It wasn't.
Yeah.
HBO.
no, it wasn't really a sex scene. It was just
And they didn't
Master
need to
Chief
be,
having
so
a
it
crush
was
on the Covenant.
good that way.
That's all.
Crush
All
vent.
right, Austin, we'll go to you.
I thought it was the best episode the show's had by far. Like excluding like the popcorn fest that was episode 5. Like that was just so cool, like all of the action, everything there. But like for this to kind of bring everything like you called at the beginning of the show, this being its penultimate episode, every plot point that we've been given so far kind of comes to a culmination point. We don't necessarily get all the feed off or the I lost the word. We don't really get all of the payoff in this episode.
Finality.
But right, that finality is coming.
Payoff.
And it's very obvious. Payoff was the word I was looking for. Thank you, Saul.
You used payoff.
I think.
I was making a joke.
Gotcha. I enjoyed it. I don't think that the sex scene needed to have sex scene. It's not. I don't think that it needed to be a physical intimacy thing. I think that it could have been more interesting. I don't know exactly what that would have been. Amanda totally made
What's
me
your
rethink
favorite
it,
color?
With her.
Mine too. We have so
I see what
much
you mean,
in
though.
common.
I feel like making it physical was just the quickest way for them to do it, right?
Yeah.
No, 100%. I
That's
said,
all.
I said the same thing earlier. I think that it was a great way to establish that there was more there than just like, hey, you touched the thing, right?
Which one of them is that?
Both of them.
What thing are you talking about?
The artifact.
The ring.
Hey, you touched my thing, right? I know. I mean, like I've been saying it the whole time. Show good. I'll give it a whole letter grade higher than I've given it so far. Solid 8.5 out of 10.
Okay, cool. So I would say on the average, then it sounds like we're
8.5.
kind of 8.5, maybe even high 8s for you guys. If we move my outlier, we give it less.
What was your score again? I kind of forgot.
7.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, like I said, it was.
Okay, I guess. Sure.
No, show good.
So, yeah, so there's a lot of potential still. I do think that there is some interesting things they've set up, so we'll see what happens next week. I think that will be our last spoiler cast of the season, so look forward to that. Now it is time to move on to our episode number 50, which is where we're going to talk about the game. Amanda, did you want to stick around, or did you want to use this up? Because I know you don't.
Still
the game stuff.
Still not playing the game.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah,
So,
I have no input. I have nothing to add here.
okay, cool. But
Nice talking. See you later.
Yeah, thanks for having.
Bye, Amanda.
Bye bye.
Aarsal, you're muted.
Yes. Bye. Yeah.
All right, so it's time to delve into some things, and I think we can hit on some of these things kind of quick, and some maybe I don't know if we're going to spend a little bit more time on, the fact that we have some major news this week for Xbox, but as we delve into the feedback from 343. We've all had our say in terms of like how they've got here, right? Like we've talked ad nauseum about that and maybe what could have caused it, and but all that, I think at this point in time, I think it's whether there was mistakes or legit excuses or some combination. I think at this point it makes sense to just kind of start focusing on the here and now and moving forward, to say like what are they doing, what's the potential of the franchise as it stands now, and. This week we got some more updates, and I don't know if does anybody here have those in front? Okay, Austin, if you'd like, I'll let you kind of cover some of the key points from that, and then we can discuss what this might mean.
Yeah. So I mean, the biggest thing was we saw some Twitter drama about HCS and a specific player in that scene who went on a bit of a tirade. It resulted in some fines. And that eventually led to Tashi saying, like, hey, this is kind of what's going on with it, right? Like, it's cool that you guys have constructive criticism for us, but it needs to be constructive and not, right. It needs to be done a certain way. The reason he was fined is because it's in our player agreement when you're a pro player, and he's being fined by the organization. So, like, At the end of the day, like, this is all good stuff. Spartan then responds to all of it and is very cool about it. He was like, hey, you're right. I should have been more level-headed. I will try to be more level-headed in the future. I don't regret a thing I said, though. I stand by all of that. The conversation ends with Tashi letting him know, like, hey, we understand we lost some trust with a good amount of the community with the launch of Season 2, and we have some really, really good news coming very soon. I was anticipating a little bit of a heads up about, like, hey, maybe this is happening. Maybe some new maps are coming ahead of Forge that are Forge maps. Instead, we got a whole update that's coming separate from the first drop pod that they're supposed to be shipping at some point in the next month or so. The biggest thing with this is Unicheck wrote up a big post on the Waypoint forums, unfortunately. So you do got to go over there to see the whole thing. But Uni writes about some of the things that they're going to be changing with this upcoming update. The biggest ones are weapon jamming. They have found the root cause of this, and they are full-on reverting the change that they implemented, which was causing this. That change was something that they were using to try to avoid player manipulating inputs to get inputs to happen faster than intended. Unfortunately, introduced this bug where inputs just weren't being read. Kind of because people were doing the thing that's always existed in Halo, which is you pull the trigger, you pull it again, you wait for that first shot to fire, and then your second shot queues up and fires in the right amount of time. Oh, gross.
Annabelle, oh god.
The next biggest point is that the skill jumps are coming back on all of the maps that had them removed. They gave some great reasonings for these. I don't know if anyone else has this list up and wants to go over some of these with me. But really what it comes down to is they felt like these skill jumps, like in previous Halo games, right, aren't communicated well enough to the average player. And so it all ends up being a surprise for people who aren't familiar with those jumps. Like, I definitely got killed because I wasn't paying attention to jumps happening or where I was positioned in a map. But for a new player to start running through the map, and then all of a sudden you have an enemy player essentially on your side of the base in no time flat, like, it's very jarring, and it's hard to discern whether that's something that you did wrong, if maybe you moved incorrectly, or if the team had an advantage. So there's a lot of great stuff in there about the map stuff.
And one thing they mentioned... Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No. I was just gonna say I've got it open too. So, but if you want to interject really quick,
I'm not reading it, but I'm saying just one thing they mentioned, and in terms of one of the reasonings for why removing the jumps, and I agreed with this completely, was how they're saying like sometimes you'll be able to jump on something in one area of the map, and then you can't do that same exact object in a different area of the map, and that makes complete sense for me. Where it's like, hey, visually this is not giving the right thing here, right? Like if you can jump on them, you should be able to jump on all of them. So they removed it. I understand that reasoning for sure.
That was specifically in the double doors in Bazaar, and you know, to kind of what I was saying earlier too in our chat is that, you know, a lot of times people don't realize that you have to apply collision detection to those areas, right? And I think, you know, it's one of those things where I think it would have been wiser for 343 to let players know that they were doing that, but I completely agree with their reasoning for wanting to make a change, which is, you know, like you know, Austin, you said that, you know, if you're a new player, especially, or even if you played a ton and you don't play, like, that's not the only game you play, right? Or you don't spend hours on YouTube looking for.
I mean, you can be a casual Halo fan that plays a lot of Halo that doesn't go into sweat insanely hard every time they play.
Exactly.
Or, I mean, you can be a sweater and then like not have the time to learn the jumps in the middle of a game because it's an intense game, right? You have to go afterwards, go to practice mode and spend hours there. Not everyone does that, you know?
Exactly. And so, like, I completely understand their reasoning for wanting to balance the game, and you know, that's totally fine. But I think you know, obviously going forward, doing so via communication, which they've said they are going to do. But the other thing, they also say that they you know, they made these decisions based on feedback that they've received. Too many times players, especially on like the pro level, think that they are the gatekeepers of a game, especially with Halo. And it is. I mean, Microsoft is one of the most data-driven companies out there. I can't tell you. I literally cannot, because I've got NDAs. I get survey after survey for games that I play, functions that I do, blah blah blah. And so they get feedback from thousands, if not millions, of people overall. Halo is definitely one of those where they get tons of feedback. And so to assume also that they're just making these decisions on a whim is so erroneous that you know, I can't even describe it. And they
you mean why do they ignore what people are saying?
Right. The company that, you know, the one company that's probably more transparent and you know, Microsoft overall is probably the most reactive to feedback, good or bad, as we've said multiple times. So that's
ever since 2013, they do jump when we tell them to jump, which is not a bad thing. And 343 especially, and like, yeah, I think these are all, you know, fair points. And if I were trying to like understand everybody's side of it, I think, you know, as a pro, you're probably saying, well, you know what, those guys that don't get what's happening, we don't usually play them, right? Like, usually the pros play other pros if matchmaking's working. And I think that's probably one of their points, is that with that skill gap, that it usually doesn't affect that. You know, it's the people.
There is an argument to be made. I think, Abe, is what you're trying to say, that you know, especially in the past, right? Halo Infinite's obviously a different beast because it's a live service game, but it really has been the competitive scene that keeps a Halo game going well past its, you know, shelf date or whatever. I think it's important to consider what the pros think about the game.
And it's not just the pros,
just like it's important to account for everybody's feedback. And the way that they communicate these changes, these reverting of changes, is incredibly, again, transparent. They say, like, hey, we thought that this was the right decision based on the feedback that we've received, which, again, it has to be from all corners of the community. This was the wrong idea. Like, we had the wrong idea about this, so we're reverting this. Not only are we reverting this, but we're even changing geometry on Aquarius to make those jumps more obvious.
Yep. And that's what I liked. So, you know, and again, like, you can kind of come and see it from all angles. And like you pointed out earlier, probably the biggest mistake was not communicating that forward or kind of talking this through to begin with, being more proactive with figuring out this compromise. And it sounds like they have come up with a compromise, and it does seem like the pro community is receptive to the potential of this compromise. And the number one thing that stands out to me, though, like above all else, and it's I guess why I for as much as sometimes I come across as Mr. Negative Nancy on the show, when it comes to the game, I feel like I'm probably more bullish than the majority of the community. And the reason why is I really think that the communication aspect is an underrated aspect for a live service game, and how you're going to react to the community, how you're going to engage in them. We know they have the resources. We know obviously they got to get caught up on things, but once they do get caught up on things, if this continues and the community starts to get that, starts to see results from the feedback, I think that could be something, that Halo has, that I think a lot of live service games don't have that level of communication. Like, now I could be wrong. I'm not super engaged in like Division 2 and things like that.
No,
but how long
right.
did that thing go? Like, or even Destiny in the past, right? Like, sometimes things come and go.
I will stop that right there. Destiny, like, Bungie is incredibly transparent.
Okay.
Yeah, Bungie.
No, let's go.
Agreed. But
I think that Bungie sits right up there with 343 in terms of transparency.
That's good.
Yeah, but like Ubisoft, to Abe's point, I mean, it was like almost a year since the last update for Division 2.
They shut down the Division 2. It was done, and then they actually brought it back and built the team up again to restart it because it had become so popular.
Yeah. So,
well, in Austin, Destiny is. I remember hearing when I'm looking at the YouTube. Oh, here we go.
It did get
We're back.
All right. Yeah, we're back. But yeah, I remember that. I remember.
Sorry, the browser source refreshed, so I had to go in and reinteract with it again.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. But I do remember I can't remember who called it out, but Destiny was one of the few, or maybe the only live service game that was still growing its community years after. So I do think that transparency is something.
Last year's DLC announcement. Not that we'll spend any time on it, but last year's DLC announcement, they announced that more than 12 million new Guardians had joined since they split from Activision's publishing. That's a tremendous growth. That's insanity. And again, like I said it in a conversation, I believe, with somebody in a video on XboxEra, which was like, if you had told me in 2014 that Steam would have been in the top 10 games on Steam for a month straight, I would have laughed at you about it, because like, what was that game in 2014? It was nothing. And so like, you start to see a lot of the same sort of pathing that 343 is going down, as far as like transparency is key, content delivery is key, team health is key, and like with those three pillars moving forward, this game's going to succeed.
You realize there are ebb and flows. It goes up, it goes down.
And what I was going to say too is, like, really quick before I get into some of the other points from the blog post, I think it's possibly a little bit disingenuous if they're saying they're the only game that's grown community, because ESO, Fallout 76, Final Fantasy 14, just to name three off the top of my head, have.
I think that was Abe's wording.
Okay.
I may have misworded it.
Okay.
Maybe it was the largest growth.
I like Bungie, and I have a ton of respect for them, especially recently. But yeah, that would not be an accurate.
It could have been like the largest. I don't remember the exact wording. I don't have the quote in front of me, but I do remember that was.
Everything's the hardest, the largest, the most sucking. My God, Abe, this show.
The hugest. Sorry.
No,
God.
But
it's the theme of today's show, Jesse. But yeah,
I think it's important, while we're talking about big hard things, that we talk about how the tank gun is being reintroduced.
I'm so happy about that. I never got to experience a tank gun.
I'm sorry, Daniel. I didn't mean to steal it from you, dude.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, the tank gun being back for speedrunners, the Spartan cores being accumulated correctly, like those are huge things for people who play campaign a lot. That I think that, in addition to what we talked about, but also the last Spartan standing improvements for the equipment are huge. I mean, it's only been out for a week and a half, and we're already, like, again, clearly listening to feedback. They're changing. Literally, Abe and I spent like 4 hours playing the other night, and most of the time we would just be talking about LSS and how, like, God, it's bullshit that be at the end of the match and somebody has double stack overshield, right?
Yeah.
And this should help eliminate some of that. So
Right.
So
Balance it
I
out,
really
right?
think it's important that they called out, like they gave us like the campaign speedrunning section, right, where they
Right.
called out the tank gun coming back. The biggest things that were removed aren't things that are being added back in right now. They specifically say that some of the other common strategies found in speedrunning are directly intertwined with the way that they're trying to prepare for co-op. So
Right.
I imagine that has to do with like being physicsed by a fusion coil, probably breaks co-op in a way. I imagine that flying the Pelican, quitting the game, reopening the campaign save, having a Pelican probably breaks stuff. They say that it's stuff that they're looking into. They say that they're going to try to, pursue options and see what is available to them without, frying the experience. But I want to make sure that we call out that, yes, the tank gun is definitely coming back, but the other stuff, as of right now, is not.
And the way
even
I
tank
took it
gun-
was the tank gun was like they needed to fix it for co-op.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
It really felt like they took it out. The reason that we all guessed, which like Nick, I just couldn't get through to him for some reason, is if they're taking it out, it's probably broken for something. And if
Well,
they can
and
fix
we
it,
had
they'll let us
people,
know.
There's a
we had
reason,
leakers. Like it's easy to play split screen co-op in campaign right now on console. It is a bug that has existed since launch day. The tank breaks that. Like it already doesn't work super well, and as soon as you complete Outpost Harmonious, the whole thing falls apart anyway. But going and picking up the tank gun deletes everyone else's weapons. Like there was probably like we've all been saying, except for Nick, it was broken. And so cool.
Oh,
that
why
they're
not
bringing
leave it
back.
in? Leave it in.
So
Who's
I
it
think that's what
in?
Give it to another developer. I mean,
I think that's what legitimately annoys me about a lot of the Halo discourse, the 343 discourse, and like
On the
legitimately,
main
like,
podcast, yeah, I agree.
in general, this honestly kind of pisses me off is these people aren't taking things away because they have fun at your misery. You know what I mean? They're not like, oh
They're
yeah,
not
look,
Mitch
we took away
McConnell, for fuck's
their
sake.
thing.
I mean,
Any decision game developers in general, but especially 343, any decision 343 makes and announces, like for example, the skill jumps, right? When they removed the skill jumps, my first impression was, oh damn, that sucks. Why? Why did they remove it, right? Because I'm sure there's a reason for it. Instead, all the responses were, I can't believe it. They hate fun. They hate this game. They wanted everything. And the problem is,
Why get rid of it?
if those
Why,
responses
mate?
were like fictitious or like a little more joking, then I can understand, right?
You
a
know,
large part of the
343
community,
probably gets as big of a boner about taking features out of the game as I get for leaking shit about games.
Yeah, fucking us like Chief did
That-
Mackie.
but
all it sound like they could be direct quotes.
it's like the community or a way too large part of the community legitimately believes that 343 wants to hurt the game.
Right.
And that just baffles me because it's like, dude, they made the game. The
Tell
game
me
that
you don't know
spent
anything about
60,
game dev
70
without
hours
telling me.
playing and enjoying was
Right.
made by these people. It's like the people who claim that no one on the Halo show has played any of the games or read any of the books.
Right.
Like, that is legitimately one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my life.
I will say, I feel like if anyone was going to get thrusted into the heart of the Halo community, they sure as shit picked the right actor with Pablo Schreiber.
Yeah.
Because, like, dude has been very level-headed on Twitter and calling people
Oh.
out while doing it.
Yeah.
So good.
But like someone tweeting at, I saw someone tweet at him a few weeks ago, like, I hated the show before I even watched it. You guys didn't even play the games. He was like, first of all, dude, good for you. And on top of that, we don't have to play the games. I watched someone play through all of the games. He was like, I read the comics. I watched some of the other stuff that they've produced. Like, I feel like I'm about as immersed in this universe as I can be, having just recently started caring about it again for the first time in 20 years. But also, like, fuck off.
Honestly,
These people who make the show spent years getting it ready and then years filming it. It's like they put in so much more work than you are sitting on your ass watching them. Just shut up.
by the way,
The one producer out of a team of 100 that didn't play the games. Cool.
Right.
Glad you found that quote, guys.
Meanwhile, Kiki Wolfkill's been there since 2012.
Kiki fucking Wolfkill.
Yeah. Who, by the way, is a super bona fide badass and also a race car driver. But really quick, Austin, to your point too, Olive Gray, they are also fantastic on Twitter and handling a lot of the discourse. They just ignore most of it, but they are super positive. Just about.
I love that they tweet out every week like Halo Day. I hope you guys enjoy the episode.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
it's just-
they get so excited, and then watching watching like Jen Taylor and Kate Kennedy and Pablo Schreiber like interact with them on Twitter is like it's always so great. It's always so great.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice.
So yeah, at the end of the day, and we called this out in the drop pod, Austin. But like the thing I do like is, despite this, right now they're probably dealing with more negativity and things like that, and they're staying
a lot more.
They're staying there and they're taking it right, and they're still talking to the community. I believe that it's going to give this game an opportunity to, I think it's in good hands, because this is something, again, as a Halo 5 player, we didn't get that. We didn't get that kind of communication. They kind of, I don't want to say they went and hid, but they kind of did. You really didn't. You didn't get this sort of upfront. Yeah, yes, you're getting desync issues. Yes, you're getting like that. In fact, when we confronted them on Waypoint about that before, there was some, I didn't feel like I didn't feel like leadership or whoever they had running the communities in the past really did a great job. And I think some of the team that's there now is kind of feeling the effects of that, right? Because but if they stay on course here, it's in a good shape. But let's talk about unless you guys want to go to some more things here, we can
really
pivot
quick
over to
now that I've experienced what it's like to game with you, Abe, I do think some of those pivots to your ISP being the issue were probably on the mark. So
I do want to touch on something a little bit more of a serious note. We saw developers from 343. I have one or two friends that work there in this time period, but I'll specifically call out Patrick Wren on Twitter, who is now with Respawn Entertainment working on their Star Wars game. Or actually, he may even be working on the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order.
Survivor.
Point is, he got on Twitter and talked about how completely burnt out they got on Halo 5, and it wasn't inherently because of the working conditions at 343, but it was also because of the community's reception to any little thing that they did. I think it's important that people that call themselves Halo fans calm down a little bit about the way that they treat employees, and not even a little bit. Like I'll tip into that further. Like, you guys need to fucking stop. Like, all that's going to happen, like, thank God that this team has the leadership that it has right now.
Yeah.
Fuck everyone that's saying that it needs to be changed.
Yep.
Thank God that this team has the leadership that it has right now, because they have to be the ones that are fielding all of this stuff. They're the ones that are having to deal with employees that are pouring their heart and soul into these games. Come to them and be like, I really want to try. I really want to be here. But it's hard to come in and, essentially clock in every day when someone is basically telling me to kill myself on the internet because I put in my Twitter bio that I worked on this game.
Yeah. I mean, to go
that's not the response that these people deserve at all.
Well, and I do think, and that's a great call out, Austin, because to step back again from console wars, from the gaming, like just a little bit of human decency and empathy, constructive feedback is healthy. Right, like in anything, in any working relationship, any relationship really, and so having these conversations of things that you feel are could be changed for the better, that you're not happy with, and being honest about that is part of a healthy discussion. There's nothing wrong, and this is not telling the Halo community that you can't can talk about that stuff, but there's a way to do that, and I don't feel that the way that it's done in general, on average or on median, is, at least for the people that are active, is healthy. And you're really kind of, if you're a Halo fan, you're hurting yourself, because there's no way that can make it easy for those people to interact, to feel, to have any morale when they're building this stuff. And that stuff matters. Anybody if you go into work, if you got to do things that take some sort of thought, and you're going in, and let's just say you hate your job for whatever reason, you're not going to be as good at your job. It doesn't matter. And beating somebody with a whip and making them try to pay that price is not going to get you there any faster.
Right.
So I think constructive feedback, good, but the toxicity absolutely needs to be called out more often. And I think really what I would like to see is a lot more of the bigger, we're not the biggest, content creators. I would like to start seeing more of the bigger creators be a little bit better,
More
leaders
level-headed.
when it comes to-
Empathetic.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, and just be better leaders.
Daniel, you had something that you wanted to say.
Yeah, I was just gonna say to go further, on that, and Abe, that was beautifully said. Same with Austin. I mean, Abe, what you said basically is almost a direct mirror of what I posted on our forum the other day after the Starfield news. It's like it's okay to be critical. It's okay to be disappointed or negative at times. It's just don't be toxic and don't be.
You have to point that negativity a certain way,
right?
And if you just open those floodgates, like all you're doing is hurting everyone else, but like.
Right, avoid the hyperbole and full stop. Do not harass developers. Do not harass Bonnie Ross or Kiki Wolfkill or Todd Howard or any of the people that you have no idea how these decisions are made, what happens behind closed doors or in the development studio itself. So you going after somebody who may or may not have had anything to do with that does no good. I mean, what the toxic discourse does online. And Abe, to your point, what a lot of the bigger YouTubers are doing is essentially like it's the living embodiment of that meme where the kid's riding this bike and then he throws a fucking stick in his boat.
They're hamstringing it. Yep.
Damn it, and blame somebody else. It's like that's what you're doing. You are creating the catalyst to prevent your experience from getting better. So,
I mean, this is a live service game, right? Yeah. And the primary complaint is lack of content. Primary fix to lack of content is more developers, more workers, right?
Right.
And so you're going to harass the workers.
Yeah.
And does this compute?
And yeah, absolutely. And like to that point, what I was going to say too is that, everybody's always comparing this to Apex or to all these other things that, happened before the pandemic, but also are made by teams that still are 4, 5, 6, 7 times larger than 343. Like, if there's one issue that I think is, apparent is that 343 needs more staff if they want to be able to put out, content like what we're seeing from these other like 4,000 to 5,000 people studios. But yeah, I mean, just have some decency, some empathy, and just remember that, everybody's in the same boat. But the games that succeed in the end, the games that come back, like Destiny, like Fallout 76, like ESO, I mean, you go through the list of these games that had a very rough launch. Fortnite, very rough launch. The ones that succeed and come back are the ones where the developers stick with it and put in that effort to put out those fires and build a better game. And that's what 343 is trying to do. So just fucking let them.
And speaking of Fallout 76, by the way, for anybody that didn't notice, it's back in the top 50 of most played games on Xbox. It's fucking nuts, man.
It's
for a game that was rated under 6. But so I won't belabor that. But I said it in some other podcasts that the thing that 343 needs in order to be the best they can in the future, and again, let's at this point, regardless of what you think, whether you thought it could, you can have an honest and fair discussion on whether you thought it should be delayed or not. But regardless of what we thought about that, we are where we're at, and the only thing that's really going to help them, I think, when you're dealing with a proprietary engine, when you're dealing with all these moving parts, is stability, not just in vision and in keeping leadership on track, but also the employees, because when you have a proprietary engine, you don't want to have somebody brand new constantly trying to figure it out. So let's are we ready to move? I think
we've got one community question that is about the game, and then we have 2 that are about the show, and we can pop Amanda back in at the end.
Yeah, pop. Let's
so I'll do the one on the show. So we're on the show we're on the game topic, so we might as well do the game one.
Okay.
What are you gonna say, Abe?
Well, no, I was gonna pivot real quickly to the delay, but I don't know if we really want to have time.
That is what the question is about.
Oh,
perfect.
So let me get it. Who the hell is it? Oh, I freaking copied the same one twice. 1 second. So the question comes from a good old Collingwood, and I gotta quickly save this so I can show it on stream for everyone. He said, "Hello, Halo followers. There was some concern among the Halo chatterati." There we go. Oh, let me resize it. It's too big. Much like today's episode.
That's what she said.
There was concern among the Halo chatterati At the beginning of the third season of Halo Infinite, dropping in November, would get lost in the wake of other games dropping at the same time. God of War Ragnarok, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and most importantly, Starfield. With Starfield postponed into 2023, does that give Halo that free air to launch a resurgence, especially with Forge coming into its stride? GOC.
If I can hop on that, I think.
Maki did, you can too.
Oh, damn right, Jesse. Appreciate
we
that.
are just teenagers like messages. Sorry, keep going.
I think it's important that with what we know is coming in the fall, not like what's hearsay or what's rumored or whatever, what we know Halo Infinite will definitely have in November. I don't think that that's enough information to say, yeah, Halo's ready for its resurgence. I think depending on what lines up, I think depending on what we see here in the next few weeks at the Xbox Bethesda showcase, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for it, but I would not want to set expectations for fans, hardcore or casual, that Halo's going to have this massive comeback this year if there's nothing pointing us in the direction of that actually happening.
Jez
like
Corden seems very certain that the certain affinity mode is set to come this year.
Really?
Oh no,
happens,
I'm also very confident that that's happening.
Did he talk about that again today?
He did. He also said
yeah.
that he said that actually it was they initially intended it to come out early.
That's what I was going to get
Interesting.
to is if an expansion were to be releasing this year, if CA's mode, whatever that might be, if it's a traditional BR or a non-traditional BR, whatever that can be, I think that will have a grand effect on, you know, the Halo population at large and Halo Infinite's health and the reception to things, you know, new and old or whatever. But I don't think that with what we know for certain right now, it's reasonable to get your hopes up too high about anything.
Yeah, but the internet doesn't do nuance, so they're going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
Though, do you guys think they knew Starfield was moved when they gave that date to us?
No, I think that was
11?
a pretty new. I mean, that I think, you know, we saw Phil at BGS last week. I think
Went for that meeting, yeah.
Yeah, I think and Arcane was there too. So obviously, the decision was made.
Both of them came up. One who came up first.
I mean, it's the right thing to do, regardless
Is,
of what people think. You know, and that applies to Sony devs.
You're not worried?
Nope.
The mismanagement at Xbox.
Nope. Not
Phil
worried at all.
made them give that date. He was
Especially
lying
not
when
worried
he
at
said Todd did it.
the one-sided accusations towards Xbox, but no other people who've delayed multiple games.
It's almost like
Again,
every big AAA game that came out this year was delayed at some point.
Yeah, and last year in some cases.
Yep.
Which
No,
is
Phil
totally
needed
fine.
Phil needed somebody babysitting Todd Howard because
Right, the guy.
you know what Todd Howard's leadership meetings at Bethesda Softworks have been for like the last 20 years. It's him looking in the mirror and saying, "You're good enough. You're smart enough. Gosh darn it, people like me." That is. So if anybody thinks that somebody's going to manage how, but anyways, that's getting off on a tangent. Sorry, go ahead, finish.
All I know is if the Mayo King himself thinks that certain affinities BR stuff is going to be out, then I'm all on board.
Yeah, the Shrimp Captain, Mayo King. Yeah, you know, so my opinion of that, because it's one of the first things that did jump into my mind. Because if you remember, like when we looked at when season 3 was going to launch, we're like, well, that's right next to Starfield. Are you just going to hide behind Starfield? And at the time, you know, I don't know that they knew that Starfield was going to be postponed, but now that it is, for better or for worse, the spotlight's going to be really high on 343, and whether they ask for it or, you know, you think they're going to be ready or not, it's not going to matter. The community, because with that void, people are going to look. They're going to look for how are you going to fill this? And there's just going to be, because that attention's not going to be on a big AAA first party exclusive from somebody else. It is probably going to turn towards 343 again, and so. If they are, this is going to be, it could be a great thing or it could be, you know, a detriment a little bit. There's going to be a lot of pressure. I think all eyes will be on them. Now, the opportunity is if CA's mode comes out and it's great, the Xbox community specifically is probably going to give it a shot, right? There's probably there's not going to be as many things pulling their attention and mind share away from that. And even that looks really, I don't know what to say about that, Daniel.
I think if I can cut you off, Ed, for just a second, you said something there that I think is an important distinction for some people to understand, which is like Halo Infinite being a live service game puts it in categories with live service games. Considering Halo Infinite as like needing to be the thing that like sells Xbox for the tail end of 2021 now, I think is a little bit. I think it's thinking about it the wrong way. It's a live service game. It's never like, unless it gets something massive, like supposedly whatever the certain affinities mode is, campaign expansion, something like that. Like its seasonal releases will never be this massive thing that brings back people's in the hundreds of thousands or anything like that. It will be something like what we saw with season 2. I know that some of the excitement around season 2 was deflated a little bit with the announcement that it is a long season, but I think that the population bump that we saw is going to be on par for seasonal releases. Now, outside of big content like CA's mode or an expansion or something like that, I think that stuff will be massive. Yeah, PvE mode, but even a PvE mode, I wouldn't imagine, like, I wouldn't hold my breath on this game hitting like a top 3 most concurrently played on Xbox sort of range until a massive expansion comes out. Seasonal releases will never do it.
Right. No, and Austin, you're right about that. I guess what I am thinking about CA's mode, you know, like you remember when Warzone released for Call of Duty, that it was almost like it was almost like it's its own game. It almost feels like it's like, I don't want to say sequel.
Halo's mode needs to be must play. And I think CA has the capacity to deliver that, but until we see what or when that's happening, and again, I would be very surprised, not on any insider knowledge, obviously, just my understanding of the industry as it is and live service stuff. Like, I feel like not getting it out in November or like that season 3 time frame, the beginning of season 3 time frame, I think is a huge mistake.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to probably need to go all in, but to your point, the most important thing is when it does hit, it's great, because Warzone didn't make the November for Call of Duty either. It didn't come out like early the following year.
I think April, somewhere around there.
So, I mean, almost at a time where things start to die down a little bit pre-summer. So, the most important thing is whenever that mode comes out, that it's great, because it is probably going to be a soft relaunch of Halo in a way, and I do think it's one of those things where the raising the tide can raise all the boats, that whole thing, and it really could fuel the entire game, and especially then you start to compound that with the Forge stuff. Hopefully that's out of beta. So there's a lot of opportunity. So I guess that is the thing, and whether it's fair or not, I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on 343. So I mean, it's a great question.
I feel like in general, any Halo fan today, especially any arena Halo fan, needs to understand, and I'd hope at this point they have understood, especially considering COD's place, like regular Call of Duty, that the arena shooter is not the top dog. They haven't been the top dog for like, what, 4 or 5 years at least, I'd say.
Yeah.
So something like Halo, a good population for a game like Halo Infinite isn't top 5. Top 5 is an amazing place for a game like Halo Infinite, because that's competing with Roblox, Fortnite, Warzone, and Minecraft's actually been ahead of Minecraft this whole time. Yeah. Okay. Again, that's another topic. That top 10 is very good, by the way. It's not like like I remember in one of the podcasts, the one with they all have Nick, but the one with Nick, and they mentioned.
Did it have bad opinions from an Australian? Oh, that was every episode.
If it's not the number one game, it is not a successful game.
They specifically mentioned something like, it can be as popular as Rocket League. It's been ahead of Rocket League for most of its release.
That's right.
Like, you guys have this really.
It is hard.
I mean, I think it's fair to call out though, Soul, on Xbox. Yes, 100%. And I know that that's what we're talking about here.
Yes.
But like, it's like PC presence is virtually non-existent.
I'm not sure if they can ever recover the PC presence. That's the issue.
I think the BR mode will significantly
the BR mode definitely
pad that population.
But the BR mode isn't Halo Infinite. You know what I mean?
Yes, it is.
No. What I mean is Halo Infinite is the arena and the big team battle right now, right? That's the game. And even when the BR mode releases, there's still going to be the arena and the big team battle aspect of it. That part of the game.
I-
Just like how people
That
still play
core
Warzone and still play
experience.
COD.
Right.
So
that
yeah, it's
kind of
probably semantics, but yeah.
No, but
the
what I mean is the audience
Yeah.
isn't necessarily the same.
Right.
The audience that's keeping Halo Infinite in the top 10 right now, playing Arena and Big Team Battle, isn't necessarily the audience that's going to propel it to the top 5 when the
No,
VR
you're right.
releases. Right?
Right.
It's going to be an
I
influx
know,
of a bunch of more players.
And I was talking to somebody about this, recently. Like, I do think where it's at, this expectation that, like once they get out, like a lot more maps and everything like that, will that bring that into the top 5? I think the arena is probably where it's going to top out at, even in good seasons. What if Infinite could do is build off of that with other things, whether it's PvE, whether it's doing some really cool things with Forge. That maybe they find some more lightning in a bottle with another mode there that goes into a regular playlist that is streamable, whether that's the certain affinity thing. So all these things will stack. It's not, and obviously you might lose some people.
It's not a
from
zero
the arena.
sum.
Right, it's not a zero-sum thing, and that's the thing to think about.
Yeah,
But
you and I were talking
arena,
about that the other day.
the thing I would say, though, about the arena, for anybody who's concerned about the health of the game, even with Halo 5, even at the very end before Infinite came out, it was still relevant. It wasn't in the top 10 or top. I think it's probably like somewhere between 20, 25 sometimes or whatever. But that base is like if you just were thinking about it as the bottom's still high enough that they'll probably continue to support that for infinity or infinitely, at least for the next 10 years or whatever it is. The other stuff though, if Halo overall is going to get there, it's going to be finding that mode that brings in new people that never would have tried Arena, because Arena is intimidating to people that haven't played Halo before. Just like I won't go and play Gears because I got in there and it's like I feel like the worst gamer of all time.
But to be fair, Halo's a lot more accessible than Gears. What is Gears
it is, but it still has that intimidation factor, right? 4v4, mano a mano, like, or one against the field.
It's not as forgiving as like COD or any of those others.
Right. It will make you feel like when somebody's better than you. You know it, right?
But
no, or it's desync.
You're right.
I'm better than everybody if it weren't for
Austin,
desync.
do you think there's a way that they can bring the PC population back without something as drastic as a BR?
Yeah,
probably.
I think.
Do you think so?
I think a big, interesting expansion that adds more than. I mean, I know you say something as drastic as a BR, but I would consider adding PvE content, whatever that looks like. If it's just like straight up like Halo Reach's firefight, that is a drastic thing to do. I think an expansion that brings something exciting to the game, whether that just be like, hey, here's another 10 maps in one expansion. I would never anticipate that happening, but as a flippant example, here's a shitload of maps, or here's like a brand new mode that's PvE content. Here's a campaign expansion. Like, you open it up like that, where it's like, hey, your time to come, like the time investment that you would need to come back to this to really get to experience everything is worth it. I think that they can absolutely sell the 100,000 people that played it on day one, or
200,000 with having more PvE content along with co-op too, because a lot of people still just waited and never played because co-op. So
yeah.
But do you think that PC audience would stay for when they're done with the PvE content and there's the arena combat, which is the big team battle and the arena 4v4? Would they stay and play it? Because right now we're looking at the numbers, and even MCC is not doing that well on Steam. It's doing decent, right?
I think,
like what, 15,000?
I do actually think it can. I know you said that Arena hasn't been the king in a long time, and that's factual. I can't disagree with you on that. But I don't think it's because Arena isn't interesting anymore. I think it's because no one has done it well enough to support an insanely healthy population. Halo Infinite has that incredible. Halo Infinite has that incredible framework. And I think that it just needs the content and the stream of content to support that.
It's also important to remember too, compared to when Halo was on PC, the availability and amount of games at your fingertips is exponentially larger.
Well, that's the thing too, is like free-to-play titles like BRs spawn like once every 3 months.
And not even just that, but like
you have to keep shit interesting. Yeah.
Right. And like Abe and I talked about, and I think we've all talked about on this podcast several times, is I always bring up that a Halo fan is not this singular entity, right? You've got your co-op people, you've got your campaign people, you've got your Catherine and I played probably not 2,000 hours worth, but a decent amount of probably several hundred hours of Warzone Firefight on Halo 5. Like that was our most played mode. So you've got those people. You've got the Forgers. You've got
Right.
and then you've got the arena people. So like once you start getting some of those modes in as well, I do think that. And I'm not sure about PC because, again, like I said, even on Xbox,
different ballgame.
the competition is so much greater than it was during Halo 3 days, for example, in terms of the availability of games. I do think that when you start bringing in some of those other modes, you will bring in, inherently you'll bring in more people. Again, I don't know how that'll translate to PC.
Well, I think the interesting way to market Forge, and I think is a totally available avenue to 343, is to market it as. This may come across as offensive to some people who care about it a lot. I care about it a lot too, but to market Forge as baby's first game development software.
Yeah.
Especially if Halo Infinite kicks off and becomes a relatively popular game, which it is on console by far. Like, don't get me wrong. Top 10, like, all of you guys have said, top 10 is amazing. I think if the population stays there and people know I can come into Forge and make my own multiplayer maps or even PvE maps if scripting is as robust as it could be, then why wouldn't I want to use comfortable tools that already have a backlog of existence? We know that Forge works. Why wouldn't I want to use that to sort of test bed ideas that I have for something? It's way easier to learn Forge than it is to learn Unity or Unreal, or even Halo's mod tools that both the community and 343 have put out.
Yeah, but it could have the same effect as Minecraft did, right?
Right.
So,
That part, we've been talking about that forever, though. I just feel like it's an X factor. Like, we can't guarantee that it's going to take off, but if somebody grabs that and starts doing things that get them, traction, whether it's with streaming or, because you see the Minecraft communities, right? Like how big they are and the Roblox and all that stuff. If they just, that is such an X factor that I feel is, been underrated.
It's overlooked for sure.
It's totally overlooked. But when we keep going back through it, there's going to be so many opportunities because you do have the PvE, you do have the campaign, you do have the Forge, you do have the CA. There's like the sandbox, and that's the thing that I for the people who playing the You Had Me at Halo bingo card, I did that for you, and just want to let you know I played 2,000 hours in Halo 5. But
Abe did. I mean, Dan didn't mention it.
Did you say that you're in your professional life?
Wait, what?
What kind of role are you in your professional life?
Do I say that every time too? Yeah, no, I manage data and analytics, but yeah. So bingo. Okay, you guys are done.
What type of friends do you normally play Halo with?
Stop it. Anyways, let's keep going. But it is the thing that's been called out, like the potential. Like when I think of Halo Infinite, the issues that continue to plague it have mostly been quantity issues, content issues, not the quality. The foundation is so good, and there's a lot of potential with so many different areas. And so that's why I'm so excited, because there's so many bullets they haven't fired yet, and I think that's really maybe the best way to articulate it. There's a lot of things that are still in the holster,
coming.
For better or for worse, right? Like most people feel like those bullets should have been fired already, and I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm just going to say they're still there. And this fall could be. Oh my god! This fall could be an opportunity for them to fire a big one.
I mean, Staten in his interview recently. By the way, Austin, what I was just trying to say was that I feel like PC has more work needed, even disregarding content, anti-cheat, stability, things to kind of like you can bring the PC community there, but you got to hold them right, and they want a polished experience. I imagine less crashes, less issues in general. But speaking of Abe's point, Staten recently had an interview on Spawncast. It was like 20 minutes long, and he had this one line that really stuck out to me.
Xcast, not Spawncast.
Xcast, my bad. He had this one line that really stuck out to me, and he was like, I've been working on Halo for so and so many years. This is the most excited I've been about what's coming next.
Yeah.
And that's kind of exciting, even for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, we're running
Halo's cool, guys.
We're running really long.
We have two more questions, and I'm going to pop Amanda back in here. I'm going to no sex jokes, no popping into her. Just pop her back in here.
I don't think
What?
anyone.
Oh my
went
God,
there.
what an introduction.
Hey, hi, honey. Welcome back for these last two questions. You can always wonder why you hear me in the background. It's because she's right over there. So here we go. The other question was from one Asomnia. Get it up there. Somni asks, do you believe Quan will return in season 2? That's my question, lol. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. She's at the
Yeah.
portal.
Yep.
Yeah, she's the new guardian of the portal with the.
When we
with
start talking
Coven.
to the monitor.
Do you think that just like Jar Jar Binks her and like just put her like in? She'll show up a few times and then she'll be off camera. Most
I hope to God she says, Mr. Quan!
Oh God.
you know what? To be fair to the actress, and you know, I just think her
She's
character's
amazing.
been poorly written.
Yeah.
She's been poorly written. I hope that next season they figure out. I don't think that character is
despite her script, she still is a great actress.
Right.
100%.
I must say, she's
I'm-
making the script work a little bit. I mean,
she's
she's doing
Australian.
a good job.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's had
she has an
a
Aussie
terrible.
accent.
Yeah.
That whole thing's just been bad writing. So hopefully they write her into something.
But she's making it better.
Yeah, I
even
mean
with
that.
the bad writing.
I think
whole-
this episode, I meant to say it earlier, but I think that this episode of the show really does reestablish that everyone is so damn good in their roles. Even though Quan's not in this episode, I think last episode helped a lot with Quan. Man, these guys casted this show so well.
Yeah, I hated that I had no power last week during the show because I really wanted to touch base on on the monitor, right? Like the fact that you know that it's a weird kind of relationship that you know clan has, obviously, but I feel like they are finally setting her up to have more of a role that's not just
Annoying punk.
right. Yeah.
More
So-
of a power role.
They
Yeah,
even
yeah.
showed her
In
with a
charge
nice
of
haircut. At the beginning, she had nice hair. You know, she didn't have that
Jack-
weird.
definitely.
To me, I think the current haircut looks stupid. Like that.
Well, she is in style. She has a style.
I think their style is stupid. Go to hell, Madrigal.
And
She kind of has like a D Antwoord hairstyle. Which
Yeah.
we don't need to get into them, but they
Wow.
definitely have some hairstyles.
If next season has any kind of like insurrectionist politics, she'll probably be pretty involved in that.
I was so sad that Burn Gorman's already dead. Like, come on.
We didn't see the body
I'm not-
technically.
I'm
You haven't
not-
seen the body. We're gonna see at the very
Oh, no,
end. It's gonna
he's
be like
he's gonna
after
look
the
like
credits.
Ajax did at the end of Infinite, where he's
Yeah,
all like,
I know,
"Nerd,"
right?
like,
After the credits, you're gonna see like this pile of debris.
He's
and
gonna
his
come back
hand's
as
gonna
Darth
come up.
Vader.
Yeah.
He's gonna have a life suit.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm evil, Halo.
But no, I'm super nice. I'm the nice Vader.
All right.
And we did have, so there's one more new question, and there is one thing last week that Travis put a lot of work into. It was very sad that I completely forgot that there were questions. So he said, I will use, so last week, good old Collingwood asked us about how fast everyone's moving in the show compared to the books where travel would take up months between planets. And so he said, I will use my question this week to address Collingwood's comment on the time skipping with Soren in the last episode. This sort of thing goes back to Abe's favorite show through the entire run, Game of Thrones, with me. Remember that show, Abe? To where usually the people who are already down on the show pretty early on, or just like focusing on the negative, even when they have to invent it, kept going on about how fast people seem to be getting to places on the show, blaming it on the writers starting around season 3 or 4, claiming it was not an issue before because George was more involved, despite the fact that in season 1, episode 1, we see the Lannisters in King's Landing in one scene, then their next scene of that same episode, they're in Winterfell, which is a month-long trek. Look, I didn't have a problem with it then. I was just using the example from season 1 to point out people's hypocrisy. And let me get this back on track so it's Halo-related anyhow. When I watch something and I see someone from a certain storyline be somewhere in one scene and somewhere far away in the next, I just use my damn brain, Abe. I don't wonder how he didn't say Abe. I don't wonder how they did they already get all the way over there. I just assume the proper amount of time has passed. Like in Thrones, there were multiple things going on with different characters. If you want to jump to the conclusion that all the different storylines must be going at the same speed and must coincide at the with each other time frame wise. That is a you problem, Abe. He didn't say Abe.
Is
By
this
the
a
way,
question?
this was more of a pet peeve of mine, not so much aimed at you, Collingwood. Your
This is
question
just
just made
me
me think
getting
of it. No, hello,
attacked
panel.
on-
How you doing? Show good. Season 2 good. Carry on. So he just wanted to say, how
Show
are we?
good. Let's
I'm
go.
doing great.
So, are we going to allow me to turn this into a Game of Thrones TV
All right,
show
and the
rant?
last question from Mort.
Oh, was that more of a statement, not a?
He asked how we're doing. I just assume you're all doing terrible because Starfield was delayed, so Xbox dead. All right, so
Truth.
Honestly, I
Mort.
won't be happy. I won't be able to sleep until Bonnie Ross's head is on a pike.
Oh my god!
okay, r/Halo.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's
right, Mort.
facetious, by the way. Don't anybody clip that.
No, I'm totally
It's
fucking
already
No,
clipped.
but I want
Already
to
canceled.
answer that. That
Okay.
game of that was different in early in the seasons. You could justify it because there wasn't a lot of stuff going on in between that time, so you could basically you could rationalize it away. Like, hey, they just
He's pretending it wasn't aimed at you in the chat,
was
but
all
I
these-
know it was.
There was all these weeks that could have happened when they traveled or whatever, or days or whatever, but nothing really happened. So you could rationalize in your mind that it just was some days and they skipped all that time. Later on in the final seasons, they're standing in the middle of nowhere in that, surrounded by White Walkers and the ice. You can't convince me that they stayed up for days while somebody ran across the damn fucking planet to get there to rescue
Magic.
them. It just didn't. It
Yeah,
doesn't.
but when
it doesn't
when
work.
you're
Yeah.
confused about when is this happening in relation to other things, then that's when the time skips and the assuming gets a little
Yes.
confusing because
Right.
you don't
Right.
know how is this related to what's going on elsewhere. You need to
I'm
you
okay
need
with
to know
time
a little
skips.
bit.
I'm okay
Yeah,
with time skips
that's
if
what
I
I'm
can
saying.
rationalize them.
Yeah.
Right.
When it's
Yeah,
a little
that's the thing.
cheap, then and you're confused, then that's when it's a problem.
To me it just felt like lazy writing.
That's when
at
you
the
need to have
I mean, Game
Abe's
of Thrones last 3 seasons was
Subtitles.
essentially lazy writing.
explaining what's
It
going
was
on.
lazy writing. The last 3 seasons, Game of Thrones, first 4 seasons was
Abe,
probably my favorite show of all time.
Like 45 just now, and you said that it was lazy writing.
You know what is
lazy,
even-
the
46.
laziest.
You know what the laziest writing actually is? Winds of Winter.
Yeah, I mean,
Am I wrong?
Can't deny that.
I didn't watch
No,
this.
that's-
Can we move this on?
All right, all
I
right.
get it. You felt that one.
Mic
like,
drop.
oh my
Move on.
God.
All right,
It's a
let's
book that
go.
hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, it's
All right.
the second to last book, not even the last book.
Yeah.
For anybody in the audience, if you guys want to do a
Yeah.
Game of Thrones rant, I'm there. I need to vet more.
So, Westworld season
Patreon.
4 coming next month. I'm
Oh
excited.
my god, yes.
All right, from Mortanya. He's never asked a question before. I don't recognize this guy. He hates
Weird.
cats, it seems like. All right, greetings. This episode was great. A bit too predictable at
Bye.
times, but it had some good payoffs. Cortana finally siding with Chief was so good to see, and Kai is a certified badass. My favorite character. Question. How do you see Silver Team going forward? Will we see a scenario, for example, where Vanek stays as Halsey's lapdog, perhaps setting things up for a Hunt the Chief thing, or will they go in a completely different direction? Give me your Silver Team thoughts. Dan, you go. You've had many thoughts on this.
I mean, I called that they'd split, right? And I think that we do see Riz have that hesitation. So I do think there's the hint that maybe she, might join Chief and Kai, but Vanek has been solidly Halsey's lapdog, since the beginning of the show. So
I'm
I think,
glad you killed my pig.
yeah. Anyway, so I do see that if we don't get more Spartans in season 2, or if whatever happens with Reach, if he survives, then I do think that he stays. At the moment, I think he stays with Halsey.
And then he has a sex scene with her assistant.
I'd pay for that.
Vanek does have like a badassness about him that I do hope they develop
break
him
him.
as a. I would
Now
like
that you've
to
said
see
that,
them-
he's getting melted to death in the next episode.
Yeah.
Sorry, Abe.
Like
Yeah.
they haven't developed him, but just his screen presence or his
Yeah. His
he
voice.
does seem.
He's
yeah.
gonna be
And-
like, "Oh, I'm going
Yeah.
out just like Ivan" as he gets melted.
His voice and presence mixed with that freaking suit he has. Oh, so
yeah.
good.
What if?
Yeah, he's amazing.
So yeah, I don't have a good prediction on that because I thought this was going to be the team. This was going to be basically be the spiritual successor, and it doesn't look like it's going to be. So which I'm okay with.
Sees how much I really got to see how much they band together. If Reach is getting attacked,
because they started off making it seem like, hey, we're always together, we're always, and I thought that was going to be this like unbreakable.
And it wasn't always together for Halsey in the end, really, because she's so all-encompassing in their lives.
And what if Vanek blames Chief for what happens to Reach?
Yeah, I mean that could happen, right? So there could be, and then now you could start to bring in some of that spiritual successor to Halo 5, where he's going after Chief at some point or something like that. Maybe
I feel like
I don't know.
The show's already kind of answered this question for us, which was that when we had a Spartan having a more emotional moment, and the moment a threat came, it was pure business mode.
Yep.
So to me, my personal thought is all four of them are going to be pure business next episode. Primary threat needs to be solved first before we deal with any personal crap.
Right.
We do this first. Is what I think.
If they get split up, I wouldn't be surprised because it's just a thing of like circumstances. Yeah. Planet's getting destroyed. They can't get on the same ship. Maybe one's closer to Halsey. I don't think they'll fight each other at all. We got the fight this week, and then it's going to be probably a crazy-looking battle to finish off the season. All of them fight in Covenant.
Unless Halsey calls Vanek to the ship to get her out of there, right?
Yeah. We had if we're done with that question, we technically had one more question from the Discord. A couple weeks ago, even Examined, who's and from the Discord, he asked us, and actually I never even thought about this: is Tatanka, the BR mode, going to launch on the Xbox One?
Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Right? That's my thought.
Yeah, we're at the point where we're
playable with cloud.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, Jesse. We've already seen it with what, 2 other games now. I think Microsoft before anybody else has really started cutting that cord, but they have the implementation in place to be able to still support Xbox One technically
in 26 countries, though. That's probably where they might be coming at it from.
Warzone. I mean, Warzone's going to be going to like the Call of Duty Warzone's going to be going next gen only, right? In 2024.
Mm-hmm. Knowing them, they'll probably get 10 more devs to keep working so that they do both of them for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see. I would like to see things split off. I know we've talked. This is almost like another show, but.
Coming up
with the CPUs that are in there, there's a lot more opportunity you can create with physics with it, even within the sandbox. Within the multiplayer. Now there is some opportunity too to offload that stuff, and this is the one thing that maybe like if you're going to be playing online anyways, you could probably just make certain things streamable only on Xbox One, and I think that would include Forge as well. I'm hoping because I think there's potential again when you just break off those Jaguar CPUs.
Yep.
Like if that's going to be your lowest common denominator, you really are going to hold yourself back from a game design standpoint. And if Halo is going to evolve, I think we want all the possibilities that we can have.
Preach.
I think 343 did a phenomenal job of getting Halo Infinite's campaign and multiplayer suite on that console. Bravo to every engineer that had to deal with all of the insane. There's a GDC talk right now that I highly recommend everyone go watch, which is discussing a single frame of Halo Infinite across all 7+ platforms that it exists on. Highly recommend that. Anyway, the point that I'm making is the game as it exists on Xbox One is immaculate. As good as it very possibly could be on that hardware. It wouldn't be the first time we've seen a live service game cut off support on a certain console generation. That's what I was trying to say without saying it. I feel like I bring it up a lot on this podcast.
It's fair.
I think that even supporting future multiplayer maps in Arena is totally doable on Xbox One. But big things like campaign expansions and Tatanka will not happen.
Yep. That's my hope too. And for the record, too, Destiny, when they Rise of Iron that they that they killed Xbox One or 360 support and PS3 support was the right call then. It's the right call now. You know,
I agree.
we are at the point now where there are almost as many consoles in people's hands at this point in time as there were when Halo 3 launched on 360. So,
Well, a lot more people playing games too.
well, exactly, and then you have the PC, then you have Game Pass and XCloud. So the population is inherently larger. So the risk
Yeah.
isn't as great as it is, especially if you're somebody who doesn't have a a catalog available across those platforms or a subscription service available. So
Totally.
it's just time to cut Xbox One. I mean, hell, even when the PS3 and 360, the PS4 and Xbox One came out, the Jaguar cores still weren't even close to
No.
the top of the line. I mean, Zen 2, when the PS5 and Series consoles came out, that was some of the best. And those APUs are fantastic for what they're put into. So
It's just, if Halo was a game that was on some sort of like tight budget or wasn't like, I think Halo is more than just what it can find. Obviously, the business aspect of matters in every game, but I think Halo stands differently, that it is something that's always been the face of Xbox. Even though now Xbox is going to have bigger IPs that are bigger than Halo, I still think it's still going to be associated with Xbox, like Mario is with Nintendo. And I think it's as important that Halo reaches as high of a quality bar as it can, as anything, right? It's not just. I mean, obviously the community matters, but moving forward, I think it is your chance to try to set the bar again. Halo used
Soul's
to
point
do that.
earlier, to step on like that specific point you just made. Soul said earlier that like a big part of PC remaining popular, Infinite remaining popular on PC is stability. And if you can take engineers away from having to stress out about making a thing run on the Xbox One and point those resources towards PC stability, it's just going to be good for the game.
Yeah, and especially, it's not like, sometimes you just say, well, just hire more developers to do that. But right now there's a shortage of support, right? So taking those resources off Xbox One would increase the quality. I mean, I think that's pretty common sense, just based on limited resources and everything else. So, yeah, I think it's time. I think I hope we'll have to wait and see. But I think the fact that it was scheduled to come out early this year, if assuming what Jez heard is correct, that does make me probably lean towards it probably was intended for the Xbox One, but maybe they just go ahead and say forget it. Let's just cut it and move on. So,
that's really exciting to me. I didn't realize that he really does think it's coming this year. Because if so, that means we're seeing it next month. Almost like if it's releasing this year, probably.
Oh, there's no way in hell that doesn't get shown next month.
Right? That's actually
they're
really
already teasing it, right?
Yeah.
Like we think they're teasing it with some of that stuff, but
kind of. We know that one tease in the live stream was for season 2, but it might also be related to the battle pass.
Right.
Sorry. Oh my god, to the BR.
all right. So is that the end? Is that the end of community questions?
I think
That
so.
is it.
Well, guys, what a great fucking episode we just had about Halo, the television series, and of course, Halo Infinite, the game. Some exciting stuff coming, guys. We love you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really quickly, before we shut it all down, I'm going to throw it first to Amanda. Amanda, if people wanted to find you online because you just have, like, you make me feel ashamed about my opinions about the Halo show, because, like, I'll be like, well, this thing I've been thinking about for 24 hours, and Amanda, like, throws out a sentence, and I'm like, fuck, I'm an idiot. Where can people find you online?
We do a podcast, honey, and I'm gonna put it in chat.
Yeah. I don't use Twitter, so I mean I have
Good
one, but
for
I don't
you.
use it.
That's why you're like
mean,
the
I have-
mentally healthiest person
Right.
on the podcast.
Yeah. Medicine helps. Well, I have a podcast with Jesse. We had Deceptive Methods about historical conspiracies, and other than
Instagram.
that, yeah, but whatever.
Nice artwork on Instagram.
I've
Yeah.
seen some of it. I definitely think it's worth checking out. Amanda does some really cool stuff besides just comes on the show and tells us all that we're dumb idiots, and that like she actually knows what she's talking about when it comes to the show. At least in regards to me, Amanda really does bring some incredible insights, and like I genuinely appreciate you being on the show. Soul, what about you, man?
you.
Where can people find you? Of course, where can people find Aarsal online?
Keep an eye out for his Halo Infinite. Never mind.
Yeah, no, don't. Keep going. So
Actually, I'm curious. Okay, I'm not gonna say nothing. Yeah, I mean Xbox Era. You'll find me always in responses to tweets that get posted, either in Discord or forums. I'll be right there. I'll be like, "This is the dumbest thing I heard in my life."
The Halo subreddit though is your home, right?
Well, I'll be there every once in a while, but I gotta get my karma up first before I lose it all.
You see a Twitter screenshot, I'm there. That's where you find me.
I'll find that tweet based off that screenshot, and I'll be right there. But no, I'm here for the most part. Xbox Era.
Jesse, what about you, buddy?
I'm here way too much. I'm working on reviews right now for Evil Dead and for Floppy Nights. Evil Dead is whenever I'm comfortable with making the review. Floppy Nights will be closer to launch. Floppy Nights is a Game Pass game, so dumb name.
And
But,
not what Chief was. Sorry.
No, there was nothing floppy about his night. But this one's like a little grid-based card fighting game.
Cortana, my energy sword's not working.
But yeah, I stream all the time over on our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/the Xbox Era. And boy, our forums were fun yesterday. I'm on there too.
They were. It was entertaining. I never posted anything other than the Halo chat, but
Well, thank you
one was
guys, Mako, over the
absolutely
top.
bananas yesterday.
But they were better
Abe,
than.
I'm going to throw it to you first. Where
Yeah.
can people find you, Abe, online?
Everywhere. Literally every fucking podcast out there. There you go, Ed.
you know what? Just follow me on Twitter, and then you'll find out what podcast I'm on.
Mother
Where can
one.
we find you on Twitter?
I'm at OneBadMutha at Mutha MUTHA_1ONE. And yeah, I do like to, this generation is going to be extremely exciting for gaming. I like to talk about it. So I'll be all over the place talking about it. And in addition to some other things we're working on behind the scenes at Xbox Era. So keep a lookout for some stuff there as well.
Daniel, my good friend, where are people looking? Where are people finding you online these days?
Fallout 76. Almost all day, every day.
Oh man, but well, close. But the forums, Xbox Era, here obviously, I moderate there. And just to let everybody know, we welcome everybody that wants to talk about games, whether you're fan of Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, whatever. And we do allow negative discourse around Xbox, so long as you're not toxic. And that applies to every other person or company as well. And then you can find me on Twitter at Digital Scientist without the final I, because some jerk who hasn't logged into his account since 2012 has Knottian. Fucker. So,
Just need to get that out.
yeah, I reported it so that I could try to grab it.
Maybe just keep an eye on it, man. Every day you got to check it every 24
Literally
hours.
no tweets too. That's the most frustrating thing.
He probably loves to like things on Twitter. Just absolutely good bananas.
And
But anyway,
not even
guys.
that.
No, just completely barren account.
No activity.
Guys, you know me, you love me. You can stalk me wherever you look at content. That is going to be under the username Pfhorbear. It is Pfhorbear. That is Pfhorbear. Guys, thank you so much for watching this week's episode of You Had Me at Halo. Make sure you follow us on Patreon, or follow us on Twitter at XboxEra. You check us out on Twitch at twitch.tv/the XboxEra. And check out Patreon, patreon.com/XboxEra as well. Some amazing content over there. We're working on maybe some exclusive content. So if you're interested in supporting the site, it's a great way to do it. Thank you so much for tuning
state
in,
content.
Oh, Abe, you got to tell us about it. And Amanda, I really want to know if you actually got to see the end of Flipper. Anyway, thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Everybody.